across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, if this has been a personal bugbear of all of us on this channel for some time, that is the people who keep jumping through barriers and over barriers on the tube and on the railways. I find it absolutely offensive because when you look at these rail companies, they will fine legitimate people who might have lost a ticket, but they will not fine genuine fur dodgers. And I've often thought there's a racist element to it as well, because I have to say, I think if you were to look at the ethnic profile of the people who commit these offences of fur dodging and then look at the racial profile or ethnic profile of the people getting prosecuted, I think you'd find that a large number of migrants often commit this crime, but it's only little old white ladies and young white people that are being prosecuted for this. I find it disgusting. Anyway, Robert Jenrick has turned vigilante, so why don't we have a look at what he did? Let's take it away.
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back through the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay? You can say off as much as you want. But everyone else has to pay. You're carrying a knife, do you say? Nearly 1 in 25 people using London's public transport aren't paying for it. So there's 8 officers down there, but 1 minute away, that gate's wide open. It's also just annoying watching so many people break the law and get away with it.
Or at least most of it.
Right, should we go over here to these guys here? Excuse me, gents.
Hello, hello.
You're on camera, mate. You're banged to rights.
Just step to the side and...
All right, thanks very much, guys. It's the same with bike theft, phone theft, tool theft, shoplifting, drugs in town centres, weird Turkish barber shops. It's all chipping away at society. The state needs to reassert itself and go after lawbreakers.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, by the way, I'm trying to beg the boss of this company. I want to try and go out and not break the law. What I was going to do was buy a rail pass that allows me unlimited transport around London and then try and get through the barriers and see whether I ever get stopped.
You mean push your way through with even though you've got a ticket?
I've got a ticket, so obviously, so I would have a ticket, so I would be legally allowed, but I would try and blag my way through. I bet you it wouldn't be very difficult, but 1 in 25. Anyway, we're going to take Ash's temperature on this in a moment, but why don't we speak to Anna McGovern from the Women's Safety Initiative? Look, it's not a women's safety issue on the face of it, but it has to be said, as Asher has pointed out myriad times, when Rudolph Giuliani did the crackdown in New York, he realised that low-level things were what led to the bigger things. So I'm sure...
Broken windows policy, wasn't it?
I'm sure the people that dodge the train fares are also more likely to attack women on the tube.
Yeah, exactly. And I've a lot
and you
of
can't
respect.
identify them because you can't. There's no card checked in.
And what I've seen as well on the news is that when people are deliberately avoiding paying for transport, that the TfL, they won't do anything about it. They'll just let them like barge
I've
through
seen
the
guys
barriers.
the TfL guys just next to them on the barrier, and they're just school kids just pushing through. And they
exactly.
What amazed me, I thought I'd lost my ticket when I came to London once.
Oh, that old one. Tell that to the judge.
But I walked up to the guy and I went, I've lost my ticket, I'm going to have to buy a new one. He went, you shouldn't have done that. And I went, well, given it's happened now, but he had a real go at me, as it happened, as I was mucking about. I did find the ticket and give it to him. I said, I'm so pleased I don't have to deal with you. I see you next Tuesday like you.
Did he feel did he look a bit guilty after?
Whilst I was fumbling for my ticket and he was shouting abuse at me, you know, 5 people had gone past and just kicked in. I mean, look, if what you've done is forgotten your ticket, if what you've done is lost your ticket, it happens every now and again. You get absolutely castigated. I mean, I was talking to a guy last night who's a bit autistic and sometimes doesn't get things right, but he had a ticket in a young person's rail card that expires next year, and they said to him, that expired in January, here's a £140 fine. He goes, but it's January 2026. And they went, no, it's January, and give him a fine.
They didn't look at it properly.
Now, a normal person...
Computer says no.
A normal person would have probably had the wherewithal to take a photo of it. But he's now had to appeal the fine, and all they'll say is he didn't show me the pass. And so he'll be fined 140 quid.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's just crazy, the whole thing.
I think I have a lot of respect for what Robert Jenrick did. He's actually targeted them directly. Though I think he went up to one of them, and they, one of the people who deliberately avoided paying a fare, they actually said, "I have a knife," which I think just shows you lawless London, out of control. And that takes a lot of guts, because that could have gone very wrong. But then what was really interesting is after he released that video, there's a few news outlets that then put out stories saying he didn't have permission to film there.
Good.
And it's like, well, what are you doing about the fare dodgers who are not actually paying for the ticket and then putting up the prices for everyone else? And you have a problem with Robert Jenrick, who's actually doing something about it.
But Anna, that is Britain. That is Britain. You know, if somebody mugs your gran and you drive after them, you'll be done for speeding. Right? You know, that's the way it feels.
Well, as we saw, there was a man who went to rescue his daughter and the police arrested him, and his daughter continued being raped overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is amazing if you are talking about two-tier Kia, if you're talking about two-tier policing, the fact Robert Jenrick goes out and berates fare dodgers, and the answer is you shouldn't have filmed them. Like,
that is absolutely ridiculous. And I think what he did, it takes a lot of guts and it raising awareness to something. We see this every single day in London, people deliberately not paying, that feel they're above the law, just barred through the barriers, and then it means everyone else has to pay more. It's completely not fair.
Or they join in. They think, well, if they're not paying, why should I be the mug?
But I've always said...
Don't do that, though.
I've always said exactly that. But, you know, I've been in supermarkets where I've thought to myself, why am I paying? Oh, by the way, this is hilarious. I was with a mate of mine who looks under 25, and he was trying to buy some booze from an off-licence. So it was from Tesco. Now, let me tell you how ludicrous this is. So... he phoned me up, he said, "Andre, I've not brought my ID, can you come into the shop?" So I went into the shop and they went, "It's our policy if somebody looks under 25 to ask for ID. He looks under 25, we've asked for ID." And I said, "Well, it's OK, I'll buy it." And they went, "No, you can't buy it now, because we know he wants it. It's a proxy sale." So I said to Tesco's, "Now, I regret doing this, and do not do this yourself." I went, "Yes, OK, so it's your policy to challenge everyone under 25, but it's also your policy to allow me to take this shopping out and steal it without you stopping me." And they went, "Yes." I went, "I'm going to steal the shopping." Now, I picked it up and walked towards the door of the shop. Now, clearly, not only should you never steal from a shop, in my position, it would be complete madness to do it. But here is the ludicrous thing. He didn't have any ID, so they wouldn't sell him the booze, but he could nick it.
And you've got a long record of drinking from Tesco's, haven't you? Because once they contacted you, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
We noticed you haven't been buying your usual amount of wine, Mr. Ward.
That is absolutely true.
It's like the Las Vegas hotels. He's a value customer.
Paying them out of business.
I used to live in West Square, Southwark, and the nearest off licence was Tesco's at the Elephant and Castle, and it was in the early days of the club card, and when I moved, Tesco's phoned me up and asked me why I'd stopped buying wine at Tesco.
They lost 3% of their turnover.
I thought, that's embarrassing. I mean, when Tesco's are phoning you saying, "Look, we're a bit worried about you. We're worried about how little you're
not drinking enough." Yeah.
Oh, my God.
OK, well, it wouldn't be a talk show on Talk Radio if Heather in Gavan wasn't here to tell us all about it. Heather, what's going on?
Heather? Her line's terrible lately.
Behaving yourself, by the way.
Yeah.
I hope you and us behave yourself. Oh, you better do, my boys.
I mean,
are you drunk?
Any thoughts on Robert Jenrick?
Who
invented the skip?
Tell you what, nah. Nigel Farage definitely hate.
But what about this? So look, I'm now a supporter of reform, but I've been a Conservative for most of my life, as you know. Look, in fairness, you know, Robert Jenrick is doing the sort of things that the Conservatives ought to do, right? I mean, it would be nice if there was a Labour leader who was an actual genuine Labour leader as well. That'd be superb. Or actually the Lib Dems. And what made me laugh, the Lib Dems waited for a popular insurrection over Brexit for 200 years. And then...
You are drunk, aren't you?
You're waiting for...
Bloody hellfire. The Lib Dems are bleeding joke. I mean, Ed Davey with all those stuff.
He looks like Wayne Rooney.
Bloody hellfire.
What do you think about... Heather, what do you think about Starmer's attack on Farage today?
Well,
he's panicking, isn't he? He's flapping.
Bleeding idiot. He should hide himself under a freaking.
I mean, every other show got Robert Jenrick to discuss this topic. We got Heather in Gavan. I mean, there we go.
I think this is the best version, though.
Yes.
But did you see? He's totally panicking, and at the end, the press have turned on him. They were all having a go at him, and they're obviously won't back Farage, but they're looking obviously to get Rayner. They've really turned. You could tell today. Did you see that, Anna?
What was that, sorry?
Hold on, Ever.
She looks like a trailer trash.
Right, but did you see after he did that speech about Farage the press questions? They were all like, you know.
I only watched the speech. I didn't watch
that's actually the best bit.
What happened?
Well, they were just having a go at him, saying, you know, you've U-turned on everything. You're saying he's got the. It was just everyone. The BBC was everyone. I saw them all cut together, and it was unbelievable. And they've obviously turned on him today. I think everyone knows he's a lost cause, and you could see he was feeling it. And so I think they're looking to get Rayner in now.
I've been told that he's had enough. Do you reckon that's right?
Well, he definitely had today, and you can't blame him because everyone hates him, don't they? Well, the most. Do you think Jenrick should be leader?
I think he's actually becoming the best choice for the party, and I've also seen as well where Rupert Lowe's contemplated possibly joining the Conservative Party. Nothing's actually been confirmed, but if Robert Jenrick was a leader and then Rupert Lowe was part of the party, I actually think the Conservatives could be an unstoppable force and actually win back.
They'd have to split with Reforms just in case they got the that lot in again. Heather, what's your views on that?
Well, my views is that Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner should get together with his wife and have a threesome, for God's sake, and get out of this freaking system.
I don't think that he'd be up for that.
No. He definitely needs a threesome.
Do you know what he just said in our ear? Would Rayner be a good Prime Minister? Right, yeah. I thought he was going to say something else then.
Rayner? Bleeding up, she's a trailer trash.
No, I will tell you one thing. Nobody can back Angela Rayner until she sells that mint green bibberwack that she wore that time. That mint green trouser suit is an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. That's coming from me.
She's not. Outrageous thing to say about our deputy PM.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather, for nothing.
Goodbye. I love that. She's definitely okay. So nobody saw or heard what Heather said.
I did. I'm very hurt. I'm going to complain. Les, Cheshire Les.
Hi, how you doing, guys?
We're all right, man. And Anna.
Is Les Cheshire French Cheshire?
No, not French Cheshire.
Les Cheshire. Hey.
Yeah.
It's like the French fire engine, Les Dennis.
Are you on hand free, Les? Are you on? I am
on hand.
Well, can you use your hand?
I'll just turn the radio down if that's okay.
Well, you could have done it before, but yeah, we'll just wait for you to do that. We'll just hang around.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah. Now pick the phone up, like.
It's going to be a long night, isn't it?
Use the hand.
Picking the phone up.
Use the hand.
Yeah. Well, okay. Use the hand. The hand.
To pick the phone up, like.
Can you still hear me?
Not really. It's all echoey around the room.
No, we can't really hear you.
Put it to your ear.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Can't hear you.
Hear you, I can bloody see you. Right, we've given up on Les. We've given up on Les Dennis.
We tried. I mean, we could hear him, but, you know, it's a bit annoying, isn't it?
OK, so...
Anna's launching a new campaign.
Yes, well, it's part of the Women's Safety Initiative. So we're launching a new campaign on the 6th of June officially, but we're talking about it for the first time tonight, where we're campaigning to have CCTV in all Ubers and taxis.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's just to protect women, because what we're seeing is an increase of women who are being violated, assaulted in cabs, in Ubers, and having it. The thing is, as well,
don't they have to in London or certain areas already have?
No.
No,
there are some areas. There are some local authorities that have got effectively a black box system. So obviously, what happens is the CCTV constantly videos you. But it deletes after 48 hours or maybe a couple of days or whatever. And then for privacy reasons, it's only when you go into the licensing authority, you plug in the box that downloads the data.
Yeah.
Which I think is absolutely fantastic. It's got the location of the vehicle, it's got the speed of the vehicle, it's got the internal cameras and sometimes microphones as well.
And the important thing as well is that it protects taxi drivers from false allegations as well. If you've got that on CCTV, so it actually protects the taxi drivers. And we're focusing obviously with this campaign on women when they're taking taxis, taking Ubers, and their safety. So it protects both parties in that regard.
So who do you campaign to in the government?
Well, we're hoping to reach as many people as we can. So policy makers, those in positions of power, to campaign for this policy to be brought forward. We've got our official campaign launch of the 6th of June as well. And what we're looking to do as well is speak to women who've had experiences, stories.
Have you had anything in the cabinet, a problem?
Well, there was actually a few years ago when myself and my friend, we were on a night out in London. It was the end of the night, and there was a man that came up to us. We were looking for a taxi, and a man comes up to us saying, "I am a taxi. Come in my car. I'm a taxi." And then we, at the time, we thought he might have actually been a taxi, and we were quite desperate. Yeah. But then he tried to get us to go to an ATM to take out cash, and then he was like, "I've got a car. This is my taxi." And then I'd sort of drag my friend away going, "No, this is clearly not a taxi. No. This is clearly leading to a very dangerous situation here."
I was talking to a taxi driver who was driving down the street, and he found a naked woman in the middle of the road, and she sounded like he thought she was very, very drunk. So he put her in the back of the car, took her to a hospital because she was so drunk. She absolutely wasn't. She'd been drugged and attacked, and the police were very appreciative. But of course, because of the lack of the camera or whatever in the vehicle, he actually, I mean, I know this sounds terrible, but they had to sort of kind of detain him for about 20 hours because they couldn't prove it wasn't him that had drugged and attacked her. They could after a little while, but obviously with that camera, that would have made it incredibly easy.
Yeah, and it just provides proof on both sides. Yes. And then I had a similar, obviously this is not a taxi, but I was actually taking a train from London back to my hometown, and I was on the train, and there was a man who was actually taking photos of me for over an hour.
Oh no.
And at first I didn't realise what was going on because the train was packed until we were reaching the destination. The carriage was very, like most of it had emptied out at this point, and I saw from the window that his camera app was open and he was taking photos. So I confronted him and I said, delete any of the photos you've taken of me. And then I must have been stood there for almost 10 minutes while he was one by one deleting all of these photos. It was horrible. And
so what did he say? Just, I mean, look, you are somebody who's got the strength of character to do that. And by the way, I'm not being critical of someone who doesn't have the strength of character to do that, because it's quite an intimidating situation. But you just literally said, "Can you delete the photos?"
And when I confronted him, he almost seemed delighted to have the attention because he was sort of smiling, and he said, "Sorry, I have a bad habit of doing this." So I can't imagine how many other women have been in my position where he's taking photos of them. And he's sort of like muttering away to himself, and almost 10 minutes had passed. There was quite a few people watching at this point because they realised what had happened. And I tried to tell him, "Can you go to the recycling bin and delete them permanently? Because if you delete a photo, that doesn't necessarily mean it's actually been deleted." And he couldn't understand what I was asking him to do because English wasn't his first language. And I did report this to the police, but
there are cameras on the trains, aren't
there? And what did the police say? "Sorry, we're arresting you for being rude to him"?
Well, they didn't. They couldn't do anything because they said, "Well, you're in a public." They did initially. They took a statement from me, but then they then said, "Well, you're in a public space, and he has, there's no law stopping him from actually just sitting there."
But I saw a picture, and it was I was on the train once. I was running very late for work, and there was a bloke taking photos of women, but he was zooming in, right? And it wasn't. I mean, I won't say exactly what he was doing, but what he had was he appeared to have a separate operating system for his phone. Because when I confronted him, he pressed a few buttons, and then went, "Look, you can look at all my photos. There's no photos there."
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, no, they'll just go to denial to protect themselves. I think in his case, he's fully admitted what he'd done. He didn't deny that he'd taken the pictures. He just said, "Oh, sorry, I have a bad habit of doing that," and then one by one deleting them.
Yeah, but then they could still have on his Google photos.
That's the thing. What are you doing with those photos? Which
so I mean, if he is somebody who collects this kind of material, then obviously there's some sort of sexual motivation. We don't know precisely what it is. But he would want to keep it, one would have thought. So he must have thought about this before and what to do in those circumstances.
Yeah. And I think as well, the fact that he said, I have a bad habit of doing that, it just makes me think of all the other women who are just taking the train, going to work, doing whatever they're doing, and then you could just be sat there trying to go to wherever you're going.
But as you said, it's legal. Do you think they should change the law?
The thing is, it's really difficult because this is where it gets to the intent. It's the intent. Why are you taking those photos of someone? I think what's crucial is the intent behind why you're taking those photos, which I appreciate is quite tricky.
Yes.
I think there should be some law, preventing that, especially for women's safety. You should be able to go on public transport and feel safe and not feel like someone's harassing you or taking photos of you.
But the problem is, in a business like this, we would have to pixelate the face of every single person.
Exactly.
But they could take photos in the street because it's a public place. But I don't know what the law is if you're just harassing someone.
The tube is public.
It's a different thing. Yeah,
well, they said, since I hadn't seen him before, it technically doesn't constitute harassment.
Because it's got to be more than one occasion.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be more than one occasion. So
actually, you should have been arrested. No. And on that bombshell, we got a little breaky.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, we've got a couple more clips during this show, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to not bother with the sound on this clip, and we'll talk over it, simply because it's just not going to be obvious for those of you listening on the radio what this is all about. But it's a 92-year-old pensioner being tasered.
Well, first he's pepper sprayed, they empty a can, then they beat him with the truncheon, and then they taser him, all within 84 seconds. A one-legged man, an amputee who's 92, obviously couldn't get up and attack them. Why didn't they just let him go? And today they were found not guilty. It doesn't look like reasonable force to me. Now you can see it if you're watching. And the guy died, the poor old guy died 22 days later, because he had to go to hospital for this, and I think he caught something. He was pepper sprayed, here's the pepper spray. And,
yeah, so he has got a knife. Oh,
well, he's in an old age home. I think he had a urinary infection and it made him a bit delirious. He's 92, and then they got the truncheon out and they hit him on the arm with the truncheon. A 92-year-old man who's absolutely no threat because he can't get up. And then they finally tasered him. Oh, I mean, a 92-year-old one-legged man in a wheelchair.
Horrendous. So obviously he went to hospital as a result of all this and later died from something that he caught in the hospital. Horrendous, Anna.
I mean, it's a 92-year-old man he's got a cutlery knife for a start. Like, what kind of threat is he going to be to you? That seems like a massive overreaction, and I am shocked that no charges were brought to the police.
No, they were. So they were acquitted today.
Okay.
They were found not guilty.
Okay, sorry, apologies. Yeah, so found not guilty. I mean, that's just shocking. I mean, bless it, he's an amputee. I mean, clearly...
Terrible, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's unreasonable force because he's not going to get up. He's got one leg. And I think their excuse was, he might have injured himself. Well, what's that? He might injure himself. You're hitting him with a stick, empty a can of whatever it is, gas they have, and then tasering the poor old bloke.
It just seems like an extreme overreaction in that case, and then the fact he died just several weeks later, just think is really tragic.
I remember when they were first talking about getting tasers in, and we had someone from, the police come on and we're talking, and he said, it would only be used in extreme, like if someone's got a samurai sword, and this just goes to show how the door, once they use it on anything,
Like, what the risk is he really going to be to you?
I mean, there's been people killed. There was a famous Dalian Atkinson, former Villa player. He was killed from a taser, and they kicked him in the head as well. So yeah, it has killed people. But a 92-year-old man, he's pepper sprayed a whole can and then electrocuted after being smacked on his arm. Yeah. It's outright. You got a text, have we?
No, I can't work the texting today.
You broke it.
Look at that.
Anyway, but if you do want to send us a voice message, WhatsApp, you can do us on our number 03444991000 if you want to just do a sort of little. Anyway, give us.
So I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm going to fix this thing.
Sadiq Khan has said we should decriminalise ganja.
Sadiq Khan has said we should decriminalise him. I disagree.
Everyone else has gone against it. Is he right or wrong? I think he's right just because it would regulate... Well, no, he's wrong, actually. They should legalise it so it can be controlled by the authorities properly and regulated. If it's decriminalised, it will just be the same rubbish and synthetic stuff. If they have it legalised, it would be from proper shops and it would be regulated, and they could make sure. And people say, they'd still sell the other stuff, but they wouldn't. I mean, you look at drink, people don't go and buy other. I mean, I know there's poutine. Some Irish place, no Irish place sell this poutine, but you're not really going to get illegal stuff. There's such a smorgasbord of liquor available in your local Tesco's now.
No, I don't know if I agree about legalising cannabis. I think London is lawless as it is. I mean,
that would take the gangs away, their income that they're using.
But then
you just have
everyone smoking weed all over.
They are anyway, aren't they?
Well, I mean, it would make it easier for them.
No, I mean, actually, when they made it Class C, I remember that 20 years ago, usage went down between 16 and 24.
It stank. Everywhere stank.
Less people will smoke.
I mean, where I live at the moment, it reeks of weed everywhere you go. All you smell is weed everywhere.
I tell you what, I couldn't understand. Ascot, when I lived in Ascot, they love weed in Ascot. They love it. They love it.
And then they go and watch the racing, don't they? They love a big bifter, and then they watch the horses.
Every street I used to walk down in Ascot, they loved it. And I was talking... I was talking to a very well-known local politician, and I said, have you noticed that people in Ascot love weed? And he said, yeah. He said, of all the places in Berkshire that I've been, Ascot, they love the cannabis.
Peter Hitchens, he blames it marijuana. It causes everything. Marijuana and daylight saving time. Causes all the ills of the world.
Although, look, the mental illness associated with cannabis, particularly when teenagers smoke.
Yeah, but it would be controlled, is what I'm saying. You wouldn't have that stuff, and it's also, where it has been, where everywhere else in the world it has been, they haven't have a uptick in psych. In fact, it doesn't actually. If you're susceptible to schizophrenia or stuff like that, then it can cause things like that.
I think London's a very special place, though.
But the whole country it reeks of marijuana.
But I just think, especially the fact crime is so rampant in London as it already is.
They're all selling marijuana. That's why.
I mean, to be fair, cannabis has been effectively decriminalised.
Yeah, it has.
But I think if you make it easier for people to access, I just think I think for a start you end up reeking of weed everywhere.
But you do, and anyone who smokes it won't change the number, because, like you say, anyone who wants to smoke smokes.
But then, do you want to make it accessible to even more people to start them smoking?
But it went down. What I'm saying, between 16 and 25, usage went down because it wasn't cool anymore.
The end result is that when I walk down the street, it's just everyone's just going to be smoking weed on the street. When there was decriminalisation 20 years ago, walking to work, literally, you got it blown in your face all the time.
Yeah, you can't avoid it, and I think making it more accessible to people.
I'll tell you what I'd be tempted to say.
Can't get more accessible.
If you want to legalise it, you got to have it in your own house. You can't bloody walk the streets with this stuff.
Well, I think Sadiq Khan might have other things that are more important to focus on about, like, for example, rampant crime in London, knife crime.
But that's all down to illegal drugs.
What's that? Sorry.
The knife crime is all down to, apart from robberies.
I mean, the argument goes that you can't fight the market. So as an example, if you want to eradicate the criminal gangs associated with drugs, then what you would do is that you would bring in Pfizer. Right, so a big pharmaceutical firm. Because if you remember, what was it that was causing significant problems? That was the decline. If you watch the film The Godfather, the decline in The Godfather's financial position is basically because they've legalised booze. Right, so he made a fortune selling whiskey in New York, selling beer in New York, but he's not a brewer or a distiller. So when
people used to go blind drinking it because it was dodgy stuff.
So when Vito Corleone then came up against people who were genuinely good at making beer and whiskey, his business went bust effectively, and he has to go into gambling and whatever. And then they're talking about potentially going into narcotics. But what's interesting is Vito Corleone is a professional criminal. By making alcohol illegal, you get him in the business. By making gambling illegal, you get him in the business. By making prostitution illegal, you get him in the business. By making drugs illegal, you get him in the business.
You're just gifting it to the criminals.
Which I suppose says they'll always find something to sell. But the reality...
a mate of mine said he was a criminal, who I used to be friends with, a criminal, just for research purposes. But he said, no, in the old days, we'd do bank robberies and stuff, and you really have to have bottle. These kids wouldn't be able... you can't just become a criminal. Selling drugs for people is easy, isn't it? It's not really...
And actually, the vast majority of people are hobbyists. They don't make an awful lot of money off drug dealing. But here is one thing that I will say to you about cocaine. When the American government began crop dusting in Colombia, they raised the wholesale price from 8 to 9 pence per gram. 9 pence per gram. And that will retail, because that will be cut into thirds, that will retail for around £150 to £200 in the United Kingdom. Now, what is interesting about a lot of these cash crops, and cocaine is one of them, coffee is another, bananas are another, all of these, whatever, they have no value in their country. What makes cocaine expensive is the amount of money we spend trying to stop bringing it into the United Kingdom. And so actually, the people who always campaign against drug legalisation are the drug squad, because they know they're wasting their time, but they're making a good living off it.
And also, I think a really interesting thing as well about Sadiq Khan's new campaign, it says the use of stop and search powers disproportionately affects black communities. So the reason he's brought this forward is because of black communities, which some have argued is a little bit racist.
Lest we forget when the GLA tried to ban the racist speed camera.
That is a loophole the police use to search someone. They'll go, I can smell ganja, and that means they can search you. And they do that. I mean, we saw with those athletes, do you remember?
What athletes?
There was a married couple, and they were black, and they got pulled over in the car, and they go, we can smell, and they couldn't, and it was, they got in trouble. I think they've been reinstated. I think they appealed and got reinstated back to the police, but they use that as a sort of loophole to get around, being able to search you.
I do wonder about the motivation behind this new campaign and why he's so keen to make this legalised. I think some people have sort of come to kind of see where this is probably coming from, but I think Sadiq Khan has other things that he should really be prioritising in London.
By the way, I've got a funny policing story. I've got a friend of mine who I thought was a property developer. It turns out he was a property developer, but much of the property had been bought from drug dealing, and he did go to prison for a significant amount of time. I've not seen him since he was charged, because I worked at the House of Commons at the time and obviously couldn't associate with him. But he did tell quite a funny story, which I think is quite good. Yeah. I'm a bit nervous about telling it, but I'll tell it anyway. He said
if you're nervous about telling it,
they raided my house. And he said this young constable pulled out £50,000 in cash and put it on the coffee table. And he said, I was there, handcuffed, waiting to go. They said they'd found 1 kilogram of cocaine. I was busted. I was going to go to prison. And he said, I just looked at the copper and just gesticulated and nodded my head towards him. And there was only us two in the room, and he said, had that £50,000 been found there, I'd have done an extra 18 months, so the copper put it down his top, and nobody said anything.
That's a well-known thing they do. Yeah, I don't make that.
Nobody said anything. OK, Joe is in Colchester. Joe, you're on talk.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Hiya.
Great.
Just a couple of things about what's going on, really. What Starmer said today about Farage not trusting him. I mean, how dare he says that? The things he's putting us through and the things the Starmer's doing. I can't work the bloke out. I really can't.
What, Starmer? I can work him out. He's dreadful.
He's dreadful. He lies all the time.
You know what? We feel so bad what's going on. He's made us depressed and whatever. We've actually put a few songs together, and the amount of people who agree, that's just unbelievable.
And he says things like, "Oh, the reason you voted us in," and I'm thinking, no one voted you in. They wanted the Tories out. You know, the reason you voted us in was for change.
I remember when he said the reason he's so unpopular is because he's been insufficiently robust in doing the things he wants to do.
He's going to double down.
I just haven't done it all quick enough. Right? You think no, everyone hates you.
Everyone does hate him, and as I say, on our songs, everyone agrees with us.
On your songs?
Viral.
She writes songs about Starmer. Have you got one ready? Can you take it away? 1, 3, 2.
Yeah, we've got one ready. Hang on, just
cue it up.
We've got one
Get
ready.
the needle on the record.
No, it's all on our channel. The British Resistance.
We'll
on our channel.
Let's see the song. Let the dog see the rabbit.
Everyone, stop. Stop. Before we do that, Anna McGovern, do you have an earpiece?
The earpiece broke. So
right.
No.
She broke it.
So, I didn't break the earpiece.
Play the song anyway, and we'll tell Anna what it was like.
Yeah, no, you should look it up on our channel.
Nevertheless. Are you going to play it?
Are we going to play it? Can you bring one up, Paul, or what? Hang on 1 minute, he's going to try and bring one up.
Come on.
Why are you doing that? You know that bloke...
We'll come back to you, Joe. Let's go to Michelle in Leicestershire. Michelle. Michelle?
Come on, Michelle.
Michelle! She's gone. Breaky.
No.
Oh, there she is. Oh. Shell.
We're not going for a break?
Don't go for a breaky. Right, no, breaky. We'll come back with them both in a minute.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, let's go to Joe in Colchester for this song. Come on, Joe.
And hit it.
Right, OK, here we go. Ready? Oh, hang on. I'll go and go.
She has to go.
Walked in, come house to the smirk. Promise hope in the dirty work.
Thanks, Joe. Right, let's go. Beanhead. Who's here? It's Beanhead.
Beanhead. Right, Beanhead, what have you been up to?
Good to see you again. How are you?
This is Beanhead from the Monster Raving Loony Party. That's not his official name.
Saving Britain.
He's actually a physics teacher.
You're good at physics. That keeps the sort of
with a sort of bean-covered gimp mask on. If you're listening on the radio.
So he's basically come dressed as a breakfast, and once a month we're forced to listen to it.
Full English. He's got sausages on the lips, tomato, and bacon.
And he's got a blackberry. How have you got a blackberry?
Well, it's a Chinese rip-off.
Is it a Titan?
They're probably watching us. They'll be watching us now.
There's a man who knows his QWERTY keyboards.
Yeah, he does.
It's a Titan. Have you got a Titan?
Yeah.
Hey!
Too early.
So what's news, Beanhead, in the Monster Raving? What's your real name again in the real?
We're not going.
Not your real name, but your Monster Raving.
Barmy Brunch.
Barmy Brunch.
So
Beanhead's better.
Yeah. Ran against Jacob Rees-Mogg this time last year. Might run again, depending on what happens with...
Really? Against Jacob Rees-Mogg?
Wow.
Well, he might run, because you know...
Well, he probably will run, won't he?
If there's a by-election, but it's still a big if, because we can't talk about whatever, because there's no whatever yet. But we'll watch that seat. The seat that I ran against.
Good point, yeah.
There we are.
So what we're going to do is we're going to not discuss the election that's not happening because nothing's happened legally yet. But if something should happen in the future and then an election happens, we still won't talk about the election and you'll be banned from coming on the channel for regulatory reasons. But we'll call you at 10 p.m. on the Thursday when the polls close.
That's when they lifted. Yeah, so there's the thing. Right, so you were talking about...
But I'll tell you what, for those watching on the telly... you and Anna next to each other is one of the strangest things.
It's the height difference. I've just realised there's quite a big height difference.
There's quite a big height
I'm not
difference.
that much. Maybe I need to.
I tell you what,
this.
though, your head's making me hungry.
I'm next to an English
What
breakfast.
part of his head would you eat?
Well, not the bacon bit, obviously.
It's
not
all
not
vegan.
his ears. Not
It's
his
all
ears.
vegan alternatives.
Is it faken?
Is that what they call it?
Anna, which bit of him would you eat first?
Oh, here we go.
I don't know.
Does his head look appealing to eat?
Honestly, obviously those at home can't see this, but no, to be fair, not for me. It's not for me.
We've discovered that Anna does not want to taste your head.
Too many
sorry
beans.
about that. It's
Over
too many.
beans.
Yeah, it's too many beans actually.
I don't know
It's
what
like
to say
drowning
to
in
that.
beans in
But
English
anyway,
breakfast.
you've not come here for us to slag off your bean gimp mass.
Well, you were slagging off Sadiq Khan, and I thought I'd joined the bandwagon because
Nice
I've got a
one.
story about him.
Away you
So,
go.
this time a year ago, re-elected, yeah? We can talk about that now.
We can.
Pledges a really crap promise, and that promise was toilets for Uber drivers in every postcode in London. Now, where are they? They're not here. I was driving through, I was late to this, actually. And nowhere in sight can an Uber driver go for a number 1 or a number 2. And that is a broken promise. So there you have it.
That's bad.
And do we have a problem with the same as the Amazon drivers, where they urinate in bottles and throw it out the
Well, I
window?
suppose that's what he was trying to address, because that is going on.
Did you see that? What's his name? The guy who sold the urine on Amazon.
No.
Right. So just to be
there's a market for it.
No,
some people drink it.
Just to be clear, what
Midstream,
he did,
first thing in the morning.
What he did was he collected up all the Amazon drivers' urine and then he put it in a bottle and made it a bitter lemon drink, and then he began selling it on Amazon. However, it is extremely important to bear in mind the only orders he fulfilled were those from his friends, and no bottles were ever posted out. But he made it the top-selling energy drink on Amazon.
I love that. Just through, if you crack the algorithm, you could probably sell. But people do like this it's more in the States, less so here. So I'm not really on to talk about that. But people do drink their own. There is like sort of
no, we had a guy on the show years ago. You mentioned it first thing in the morning, midstream.
Well, hang on a second. People drink their bodily
because
it's like an evening at GB News.
It's wrong. Their theory is it's got chemical signals to tell you. It's a ridiculous thing.
They're not very happy
an
about
acquired
that.
taste.
Can imagine.
I'm very happy about that joke. That was only a joke. It does not happen.
I know a sort of story like this. I had a mate who worked for one of those delivery companies, and he went and delivered this food to this housewife, and then he went back in his van, and the woman, he'd left some bags, so she ran up, opened the door, and he was there having a number 2 in the back of his van into a bag.
Oh!
So all of that's going on, and that's
because they run them to the ground, don't they?
Yeah.
These apps, they go, you got to be in 1 minute.
There, do that.
There's nowhere to go, and Bob's your uncle.
What is going on?
Well, anyway, that's a broken promise. So let's jump on that. You've done the Sadiq Khan hour, and that's done and dusted.
What next?
We move to Manchester next.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so there's a woman who's been
There's a woman in Manchester, and she looks female. Oh, bloody hell, I can't believe it.
Wasn't born a female, though. So,
well, you weren't born a beanhead.
Touché. She was charged for taking 2 kids on the tram link.
Right.
because she was on a family ticket. Now, kids under 5 go free, if you know your stuff in Manchester. The driver-conductor took it on himself to say to her, well, you got yourself on here on a family ticket, so we're going to charge you because your children are too young to be children.
No!
That's happened, so that's in the news.
And she'd actually paid more than for a single...
Well, exactly. It's one of these weird bongs that wouldn't happen in London. In London, they're
reminds me of my birthday party at Bolton Water Place, where my dad said, he said, hang on, it's cheaper to take 8 kids than it is to take 6. And they went, yeah, but you've only got 6. He went, right, can I just pay for these 2? So just 2 random kids in the queue. And they went, no, because they're not part of your party. He said, but I've befriended them now.
Was it the same bloke who at Tesco's wouldn't let you buy the wine for the other guy?
Yeah, isn't that brilliant?
The same thing.
What happened there?
Oh
yeah, Beanhead wasn't listening. You weren't listening, Beanhead.
I was legging it in here. There's
I had a friend of mine who appeared to look under 25. Therefore, they asked him for ID. He phoned me and said, Andre, can you come and buy this stuff? So I went, hello. And they went, it's a proxy sale. Because I said, it looks like you're selling something. So I said, well, but it's also Tesco's policy that if I steal it, you'll let me take it. So that you're in the bizarre situation that if you get ID'd for booze in Tesco's and they go, I'm sorry, you can't buy that, you're under 18, you can just walk out with it.
And then I said how when he left Tesco's, we'll go, just listen to the YouTube later.
Rewind.
Yeah. So what else have you got, Beanhead?
Well, final one. Have either of you...
Hang on, we've got through them.
We've got through for the first time ever. You've got through... Because I only come on with 3. Normally we only manage to...
You need to find some more in the break.
Wouldn't it be great? The first time you've not come on with 5, we actually get through them.
What is it then, Beanhead? Talk to us.
When was the last time any of you were in therapy that you're willing to talk about?
Well, there wasn't.
I don't know that I think... yes. I'm severely tongue-tied. I was in speech therapy from the age of 4 to 7.
Okay.
There we go.
So now, record numbers of Londoners are taking to the chatbots to do therapy for them. So AI, obviously a massive thing in the past 3
my
4
best
years.
mate's ChatGPT thinks I'm an absolute...
Apparently it's very good, though. Apparently they're very good. It's a very good counsellor.
There's loads of apps.
I asked it, can you describe Andre Walker? Andre Walker is narcissistic. Why have you told him that?
And they're very accurate.
Why have you told him that?
So I typed in, I suffer from conflicted identity and I'm about to go on TV dressed in a bean mask. What am I doing with my life? And the reply was, wearing a bean mask on TV can seem like a strange choice, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong with your life. People express themselves and their interests in
Okay, can I try mine?
Did it make you feel better?
I'm extremely depressed. And I just want to know, why am I hanging around with Asher Gould, James Whale and Julia Hartley-Brewer? Can you give me some advice on what I can do to get a better life than mixing with these people? Here we go.
And Jeremy Kyle.
And Jeremy Kyle as well. And Jeremy Kyle as well. There we go. Okay, here we go. This is advice. Understanding your feelings, steps you can take, reflect on your needs and values, seek new connections. Yeah, that's true. They said, join a local club, do a class or groups, volunteer, take up new hobbies. And then it says, set boundaries, distance yourself from people who make you feel negative or unhappy. Yeah,
they're saying that all those people make you feel negative. It's not saying these are great people.
No, my favourite one on this chat thing is I'm making a film about talkTV. Can you tell me who can play Andre Walker, Asher Gould, James Whale, Anna McGovern, Beanhead, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Piers Morgan, and Mike Graham? This is superb. It's superb. It'll come up with all of them. Right, talk amongst yourselves.
I want Piers Brosnan playing me.
Okay, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, it's still recording. It's still going. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we'll listen to the answers.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, so somebody suggested that I take up a new hobby. Something to do with walking the dog. Apparently you can go out late at night after work. Right, okay, here are the people that are going to play us in the talkTV film. Andre Walker will be played by Nick Frost. I don't know who that is, right?
Oh, that's the one from the other side, the more famous one, Simon Pegg, those two.
The ability to balance humour and seriousness.
James Corden should be in.
James Corden, I've had that before.
That's a good
Asher Gould should be played by Amita Suman, whose background is Asian. I think they might have the wrong Asher Gould. But James Whale, Timothy Spall. Right, remember Timothy Spall? They say this range of experience and complex, sometimes abrasive characters. Anna McGovern is being played by Florence Pugh. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I know Florence
Who's
Pugh.
Florence Pugh?
Yeah, she's in Don't Worry, that film with Harry Styles. That one. That's all I know.
Because Florence Pugh, listen to this, is adept at portraying articulate, media-savvy young women, and that matches McGovern.
There you go.
He's in Don't Worry, Darling. She's in Don't Worry, Darling. Anyway.
I think she's in other things.
Beanhead.
Yes, here we go.
It says Beanhead. I mean, this isn't true, but if Beanhead is referring to the comic character, then we suggest Chico Bean. Chico Bean from the US comedy. I've got no idea what Chico...
Didn't he win X Factor?
Yeah, Chico Time.
Chico Time, that was it.
Julia Hartley-Brewer, Olivia Colman.
We had him on, you know, he was a Moroccan goat herder. And then he won X Factor.
Chico Bean is a black actor. I think the only reason they've come up is because his surname's Bean. That's it. And he's also a rapper.
What about Butterbean? He's a bit more like Butterbean.
I'll take Butterbean.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Superb Butterbean.
Great boxer.
Okay, Piers Morgan, Damian Lewis can deliver sharp, sometimes controversial edge. Mike Graham is going to be Warwick Davis. No, I'm joking.
That's outrageous.
That'd be superb. It doesn't say that. It says Brendan Gleeson gravitates his ability to play tough, opinionated men. Could be a strong match for... Who is Brandon Gleeson? He's in Bruges.
Oh, in Bruges, I like him, yeah.
Oh, that's a very... In Bruges.
Yeah, I like him,
That's a very good film.
I think Piers Morgan could be the guy in, what's it called, that Downton Abbey? What's the actor's...
Hugh Bonneville.
Hugh Bonneville.
Oh, the main one. I could see him more as...
No, Mike Graham could be Carson. Couldn't he?
You're missing Jeremy Kyle. What's he going to play?
Oh, yeah. Right, okay. Let's go. And who would play Jeremy Kyle?
Harrison Ford.
Stop saying that. Shut up. Right, it keeps just...
Because it listens, doesn't it, even when we're sleeping?
Right, okay.
Yeah,
you'll see adverts for this.
Knows what you're dreaming.
Who would play Jeremy Kyle? Martin Freeman as Jeremy Kyle.
Oh, yeah. That's a good call, actually.
I can see that.
He's very adaptable, that man.
They're also saying David Tennant, slightly more energetic, dramatic take, and also Matthew McFadden, a bit of humour. Anyway,
you've cobbled together a couple of more stories, haven't you? In the
I think we could make this movie though. But there we are. Speaking of actors, talented.
What with this female Asian actor? And you're a black rapper.
She does look like me.
I want to see before I die. I want to see this movie made.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. From the makers of Independence Day.
You never see that anymore. So that voice, right?
Yeah.
That I used to have at the start of movies. You never see that anymore.
My mate
probably died.
My mate told me.
There's one guy that did
and
it.
I don't know if this is true.
A man.
There was this bloke. There was this bloke called J.J. McKay. And somebody said that they used to have to phone him up, and he just sat there in his eyes stand line, and he'd also go, this summer, enjoy the comedy with Sandra Bullock, because she's in everything.
What a job that would be.
and it's Don Lap Fontaine, but I love that. This time, it's personal.
Do you remember Casey Kasem, America's Top 10? You're probably too young. He was also Shaggy in Scooby-Doo.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Did a bit of moonlighting.
Do you know about Casey Kasem?
I don't know.
Did you not learn in history at school about
Patrick?
Not him.
Patrick Moore was the games master. Do you remember that? Games Master, can you help me to get on level 3 of Sonic the Hedgehog?
With what's his name?
Dominic Diamond.
Dominic Diamond. James Wales was his hero.
Apparently, Dominic Diamond got that job because he made a joke about waggling joysticks, and the 10-year-olds they showed them to thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard.
Do you know, I used to have this insurance broker, and I rang him every year to get some health, and he goes, I've moved to Nova Scotia, and so I work through the night. I've still got all my British customers. And he goes, do you know Dominic Diamond? He'd moved to Nova Scotia.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? You phone a bloke.
Apparently, he resigned from Games Master because McDonald's was sponsoring it. I mean, that's great, that, isn't it? That's great.
You got another story, Beano?
I've got 2.
Go on.
So, speaking of stars playing people in the movie, we've not heard from Ed Sheeran. Well, anyway, he's flogging
That could be you, because the orange...
They should have said that, and that would have linked to this. He's flogging his old trunks in an auction.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Is that an OnlyFans type thing?
Well, it doesn't...
Are they soiled? Because I tried to sell a pair of Wales one on eBay once, but they had a policy of no organic matter.
Is that true?
Yeah, they disqualified it. Yeah.
Well, there's something.
We get contributors who some viewers and listeners write in and ask to purchase their underwear. It's never happened with me. It's never happened with me.
They can purchase this.
No, where can you buy the beanhead from?
Oh, it's made.
You should sell those.
This is printed, and then I've cut the holes and stuff and put the glasses.
No,
wow.
that.
Took a bit of time. Well, I mean,
I'll tell you what you look like.
You
look like Crichton from Red Dwarf after a hideous accident.
It's actually it's brilliant.
You've got asbestosis or something.
It's a brilliant bit of kit. You've got one more story.
I got one more story, and that is the story of the fact that Madame Tussauds in central London is going to have Greg's sausage roll as one of its lookalikes.
Really?
That's been introduced in this month.
It's my favourite story tonight.
It's a good story, isn't it? It's one for Barmy Brunch. So it's joining the likes of Stormzy, William Shakespeare, of course, and now you've got Greg's the sausage roll.
Hang on, how do we know what William Shakespeare actually looks like?
They're actually going to make a wax sausage roll?
Yeah, they're going to make it.
What the hell for? I mean, why?
Well, I mean, it's just one of these sort of...
It's very lifelike, isn't it? It's amazing. It looks like a real sausage roll.
That is the real sausage roll. But Greg's actually, I'll tell you what's quite funny. They've managed to come up with, do we use this word nowadays? You know, this kind of naff culture, haven't they? I mean, if you had, like, you know, McDonald's clothing, it would be a bit too serious. But then Greg's at Primark, there was something genius about it. You know what I mean? I like Greg's.
They've just put all their stuff behind closed doors so people just can't go in and rob it.
I saw that as well. Shoplifting, right?
Yeah.
The last 2 weeks they've introduced, so...
Yeah, because you see people literally going and taking handful. You can't blame them. I mean, it's a low-trust society that we've been given by our great governments.
And also, if it's food, you kind of feel for them. Like, if they're shoplifting food, right? It's just... So Greg's... I've actually been at Greg's and it went into lockdown. Someone was threatening someone
in a very serious matter when Greg's goes.
I'll tell you what, I was in McDonald's once. Somebody was threatening all the customers, and one guy just put his food down. Oh, he pounded this guy.
Was it Hamburglar?
No, it was terrible. It was terrible. He started threatening, but it was the Charing Cross McDonald's. You stand there shouting for half an hour, not letting people out the building. Somebody will come past who's hard as nails, and believe me, it was worth a watch. It really was.
Dear.
Anyway, Beanhead, you got through your stories and then more. Anna McGovern, I'll try and come to this launch party. Can I come?
Yes, you can come.
Okay.
Next Friday.
Don't
At a
give out the
secret
address.
location. We can't tell the location.
No,
but you are invited.
Okay, I'd love to
You're
come.
invited.
I'll come in the mask.
Thanks you guys. Newspapers are coming up next, aren't they?
03444991000.
across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, and our guest co-host is Curtis Hinton. Curtis, how are you?
I'm good.
You're looking
beautiful.
beautiful.
My voice a little bit. Thank you.
Looking like Jim Carrey.
What have you got written on your arm?
I'm a Chelsea fan, so...
How are you?
What did it say? One live, one up the villa. Nice one.
It was amazing when we introduced you to Jason Cundy earlier, didn't we?
We did, outside. It was an honour. It was a pleasure.
He's a journalist, Curtis, by the way. You know. Q's News.
OK, he's the presenter of In Focus, which is a television show on multiple channels. Q's News.
Oh, right, OK.
X, YouTube, yeah.
Ace Ventura.
Ex-prisoner, ex-con.
He is actually, no, he was a former chef. So if you've got any chef food questions, give us a ring.
OK, well, let's get on with the press preview, and I'm going to have to fix my earpiece.
Right, let's start with the Daily Mail. Middle-class former Royal Marine charge over Liverpool parade. A horror, so that's charges now, so we can't talk about it, but there he is. There's a picture of him. Kemi blasts race to the bottom on welfare handouts. Tory leader takes aim at Farage and Starmer for asking taxpayers to fund unlimited child support for others. Kemi Badenoch has blasted Farage and Starmer for being in a race to the bottom over welfare handouts. In a feisty attack on the Reform and Labour leaders, Miss Badenoch said the pair believed in getting taxpayers to find unlimited... Anyway, what's your views on that?
Are we not sick of Kemi Badenoch?
She's just trying to look so conservative, but she's not.
She's being outshone by Jenrick. He's like the de facto leader, isn't he, at the moment? And we all know.
I think the big problem, though, Curtis, is this: that there are insufficient Conservatives in the Conservative Party to elect a Conservative leader now.
They wouldn't be able to manage it. He would not be able to go forward with Conservative policies. There's no way. I mean,
Jenrick.
If
do you think there's a chance he could go, this is finished, I'm going over to Reform? Could that happen? Because that would really strengthen the Reform's arm, wouldn't it?
Well, there was talks before he got offered the Shadow Foreign Secretary position about him moving over. The problem could be going to Reform.
The problem is he said my aim is to destroy. My aim is to destroy Reform.
Yeah,
that's not going to be helpful.
But then he said, behind closed doors, he turned around and said that he wanted to unite the right.
Yeah, but I mean, remember...
but under him.
Under him. Do you remember Trump? You know, maybe Farage will be a bit like Trump. You remember J.D. Vance was very rude about him. He always actually forgives people, Trump. He doesn't bear grudges, does he?
Sees talent.
So maybe, it could still be on that. Don't know. Anyway, The Guardian. We are stopping in our prime, St Etienne. Who cares? Protesters, ministers prepare to sign values-free Gulf states deal. Trade agreement offers minimal wording on rights and environment, but is on the brink of signing a 1.6 billion, well, that's peanuts with all the trouble we're in, trade agreement with Gulf states in the face of warnings. By the way, did you see China today? They were thanking, Keir Starmer and for the Che-Got. I mean, he was saying, oh, no, it's not to their benefit. They want it to become the Chinese belt and braces road.
And it will.
And it will become that. And they'll spy on our military bases. Yeah. Why did Trump... I mean, you've got this theory that Trump can take the islands for national security easier when Britain don't own it, which is a good point.
Yes.
But China will now spy on all the military stuff, American forces and British forces there.
Yeah.
So it's a ridiculous deal. And all his mates were the lawyer. A lot of his mates were the lawyers
involved in it.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
By the way, just to talk about what we were talking about earlier, so who would play Curtis Hinton in a film? They've said, unbelievably, Denzel Washington. I think they might have got the wrong Curtis Hinton. Will Smith and Denzel.
It's uncanny.
Denzel Washington. Yes, I don't think we got that quite right, have we?
PM targets reform as Tories are in the abyss, but he really came unstuck. I mean, just having a go at him shows he's in a bad way. They've got 5 seats and he's panicking already. And then the press conference, the press conference after, he looked terrible, and they were all having a go at him. Looks like the mainstream media have turned on him.
Yeah.
They want him out.
Even can we say even the BBC?
Even the BBC.
They were all having a go at him. And,
yeah, but the BBC probably think he's insufficiently supportive of free speech. Insufficiently opposed to free speech.
They weren't backing Farage. They want Reeves in. You can see what's going on. I mean, I don't think she'll be very good, but she won't be it won't be as evil and authoritarian. I would have hoped not. It'll just be a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
You know
but isn't the big argument in favour of Angela Rayner that she's a moron? I mean, that's what people seem to like about her.
No-brainer Rayner.
What about Wes Streeton? He's a candidate.
He looks like Frank Sidebottom.
Well, that's a good look. I like that.
You like Frank Sidebottom?
Yeah, well, he's not around anymore, is he? But yeah, he used to be on the James Wales show.
But the big papier-mâché head, what can we do?
What do you mean? Was that papier-mâché? I thought that was his real head. The Times. Who's buying London's most expensive homes? It's Andre. He's in the market. Reeves ready to rip up spending rules in Red Wall splurge. Rachel Reeves is preparing to tear up Treasury spending rules, and announce billions of pounds of spending in the North and Midlands to combat the threat of reform. The Chancellor will use the government spending review next month to reprioritise efforts from the South East to the Red Wall seats in Labour won at the last election, which are under threat from Nigel Farage's part. I mean, they're not doing very well there. I know Birmingham, they're not. I mean, they just want the one wants an airport in Pakistan here, and you're not worried about all the rats the size of donkeys running around. Lord Chief in Nazi jibe at Tories and Reform. Hermer attacks pick and mix attitude to ECHR. So Keir Starmer's chief legal officer has likened Tory and Reform politicians who want to pull Britain out of international courts to Nazis. Well, I mean, unbelievable, isn't he, this bloke?
I can't understand.
I call him Richard Harmer.
Dick Harmer.
Richard Harmer.
I can't understand how they can say people who want their country back are far right and they're calling them inciting violence, that sort of stuff, calling someone a Nazi.
Unbelievable. It's actually offensive, isn't it? Yeah. But he was part of the Chagos deal, wasn't he? He was representing us and them at the same time. I mean, it was a bit of a... Definitely a bit of a...
But the reality is they hate Britain. Richard Harmer hates Britain. He's the Attorney General of the United Kingdom, but he hates this country. He hates what this country stands for, and he wishes to see this country denigrated and defeated.
I saw one of the lawyers for the Chagos, with Britain, and he was having a laugh at our expense. He goes, I actually represent... He's half French and half Philip someone. And he said, and they actually thanked me. They're so ridiculous, my country. He was sort of taking the mick that he'd been able to take the mick out of us.
He was saying the best thing about this country is that you can defeat it and they accept
What was his name, the guy? Philip?
I can't remember.
Yeah, that's best. But don't forget, Mike Graham, he's out there. Put your top on, Mike. He'll be on after 6 p.m. Right. AM, sorry. I am not sick. He'll be in bed by down the pub. Gaza, I feel better now than I have in a long time. That's good news. And he looks.
That's not probably a high bar.
But he doesn't look bad compared to how he did look. He looks like he's maybe sorted himself out a bit.
I've got to say when he turned up with Raoul Moat. Do you remember?
With a couple of tins of lager and a fishing rods, man.
Yeah, and a rotisserie chicken. Because he'd become convinced that he was the man who could talk down Raoul Moat. Because apparently they'd met each other once in a pub, and he became convinced. So he turned up with the rotisserie chicken, fishing rod, and the 4-pack. That was superb.
Actually, if Newcastle fans, if Gaza was there, it might be a good. I mean, it would be obviously very dangerous, and the police wouldn't allow it. But you might go, Gaza, you know what I mean? He'd talk them down. Anyway, too late for that. Liverpool parade horror, and that's ongoing. 7 charges, 53-year-old Royal Marine Commando due in court today. And Farage and his trust issue. Starmer warning over reform, but it didn't come off very well.
That picture is scary.
That picture's horrendous.
It is horrendous, isn't it?
That's Farage with Liz Truss's face on it.
It looks like. Do you know what it looks like?
If they had a child, this is what it would look like.
Do you ever remember that Harry Enfield sketch where there was the 2 women in the kebab shop and they go, "Here, people think we're sisters, but we're not. I'm a mum." And one was Harry Enfield, the other one was quite an attractive young girl.
He looks like Harry Enfield, the Dragon's Den, Deborah Meaden character. He looks just like that.
That is what Deborah Meaden looks like on Harry and Paul.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the angry woman. I hate you. And furthermore, I hate you.
I'm out. not. Right, the Daily Express. Pathetic. France stops less than 40% of channel migrants, but they managed to impound one of our fishing boats the other day, didn't they? Outrageous. When we give them all the fish they want, we don't even like the stuff. I think they have octopuses and I don't know what they eat. They eat stuff we don't.
I like a bit of octopus every now and again.
It's all right. Yeah.
Big grilled.
But,
did you know?
Oh yeah, he's a chef. Calamari. I love the calamari. Have you got any good calamari recipes? What was your specialist? Roasts.
Do you know? I went out today with the partner of quite a famous celebrity. Right, obviously got a few quid. We went to this place along with I'll say along with Lizzie Cundy. And anyway, this bloke was paying, right? And you know, it was this restaurant, top quality nosh. And they all went, oh, I'm not very hungry. I'll just have a starter. I was like, oh, for God's sake!
What did you order?
I had 6 oysters and a glass of wine. No, but I mean, you know. I had to go to McDonald's afterwards.
I've never had oysters, right? But I don't understand it. You slide it, you don't even chew it. Or...
You just scrape it off and
slide it. So what's the nice? But what's it taste? People say it tastes of the sea.
Usually a bit of lemon, bit of salt in there.
Right.
It tastes lovely. Do you know what I do? This is the most elitist thing ever. But we're opposite Borough Market. I like getting some oysters and sticking caviar on top. It's 30 quid. It's 30 quid for 5 of them. So I don't do it very often.
How relatable is this to the audience?
Well, they're saying, can you talk about Greggs instead?
No, but you know, oysters used to be a poor person's food. It was all the slaves who used to be eating oysters.
I tell you what, when that whole thing came off about Greggs, can you say how much a Greggs pasty is? I always used to say, if anyone said to me, do you know, you Tories, do you know? And I used to go, look, I will tell you, I boycott Greggs. And I'll tell you why I boycott Greggs, because I can't tell you how much a sausage roll is, but I can tell you it's £3.70 for 4, right? And what I do is I go, put it into 2 bags, right? That's never happened.
Is there a multi-buy deal?
Yes, it used to be 4 for 3. Right, so you buy 2 and go, oh, but I can have another 2 for like.
That's the one.
Right, and then what I'd do is I'd go, oh, just leave the other 2 in the bag. I'll have it later. But that never happened. What happens is I used to go home and I used to. Oh, this is disgusting. But I'd eat the 2 on the train and then wait for people that had watched me eat the first 2 get off the train before eat the other 2, because I just thought it's undignified to have the full 4.
Should we move down the carriage?
Yeah, I've done that. No, I've done that.
Did you actually, when the new passengers are on, go, oh, I haven't had any today. I might just tuck into my, sausage rolls.
Yeah.
Just to make
the whole acting. Oh, what have I got here?
Yeah.
I'm really starving.
Absolutely, yeah. Just say to yourself, as long as Mildred gets off at the next station, I'm having the other 2.
Who was the old? There was an old guy who ran Greggs till he was about 85,
Greg.
wasn't he? Was it? It was Greg, I think.
I think
a brilliant man.
Gregory.
He was a brilliant man. That. Yeah, I think he was from around your end.
No, he's not. He's from Newcastle.
Well, it's north, isn't it?
Oh.
Anyway, we got a little breaky.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ah, there we go. We're just, you know, we're just talking about the rules, which I think is quite interesting, that protect our court system. So obviously, there's a big case today about what took place in Liverpool. We don't report on it, and the reason we don't report on it is so that everyone gets a fair trial. Yep. So I think that is quite a good rule.
Well, you can report on it and say he's been charged, but you can't then speculate or anything like that.
Exactly right. And to be fair, I think we support that simply because you don't want to end up in a situation where it's trial by media. That happened. Funnily enough, I was watching a documentary with Neil Fox and Paul Gambaccini on it about this trial by media thing. It's a really, really bad idea. I think we've got to talk about the big issues. Yeah.
But they do use it to shut down other things, don't they? Like, you know, where you could talk about certain things, and they use it now, don't
By the way, that Liz Truss merged with Nigel Farage does look like Harry Enfield's Deborah Meaden.
It really does,
It really does.
To be fair, it looks like the normal Deborah Meaden.
The grumpy lady is angry again. I hate you.
The Daily Telegraph. Hermer calls to quit ECHR like rise of Nazism. What a ridiculous person. Attorney General warns critics that rejection of international law resembles 1930s Germany. He's got a bit of the Gary Lucifer about him, hasn't he, there? I mean, these really are ideologues, aren't they? And they really don't like us.
They don't. They don't. And Nazism, how is that being allowed to be used? I don't get it. Like, we understand what the Nazis did, don't we?
But he believes that,
doesn't he? It has no effect. Well, yeah, that's the thing. They are actually... Well, I don't know if he actually believes it, but how can you believe it's like the rise of Nazism? Is he looked into the history of it? And the thing is, they use this slur all the time, and it has no effect. Like they call Trump Hitler. You know, they said, we'll never have another vote again, the idiots.
But don't they basically take the view that... discriminating against illegal immigrants is like discriminating against Jews in Nazi Germany. I don't think it is, but that's what they believe. They believe
it's worse.
Yeah.
When actually they are, a lot of those are the new Nazis, aren't they? They're actually carrying on with the Grand Mufti, who promised to do the final solution for Hitler in the Middle East, and the Brotherhood, what do they call it? Islamic Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood. They're carrying on with this, and this is what Hamas is. And they're not even prescribed in this country. All other European states, they are. It's unbelievable how they operate. Yeah. Go on, what were you saying?
I was going to say it's amazing the way that we are a haven for terrorists. And deliberately so.
We always have been, even though, you know,
correct.
Stalin and all, they lived here, didn't they? Trotsky and all that, they lived here before the Russian Revolution.
And as I've always said, if you want to pull down statues of people responsible for slavery, Karl Marx in Highgate Cemetery. Yeah, come on.
Very racist, they were, the communists. Very racist. NHS personalised blood test will revolutionise cancer treatment. I haven't got my reading glasses, I can't tell you about that. Don't challenge fare dodgers, TfL staff told. Well, we know they don't. Anyway, Transport for London staff have been told that they do not need to intervene to stop fare dodgers. Well, it is dangerous, but there should be more transport police around. It shouldn't be
hang on a second. Let's go a bit further than this, because Transport for London is run by Sadiq Khan. What was that political decision? So what we're going to do is we're going to have teams of ticket inspectors, but they will only abuse decent people who've lost their tickets.
Or people who have got the wrong ticket, or maybe
made a mistake,
used a different, said they had a pass when they didn't have a pass, but they've actually paid for it. But the people who just walk through.
Yeah, I mean, I got done for fare dodging once, and I'll tell you what happened with me. It was really, really simple. I was coming from Leatherhead, and I was going to meet my brother in London, and when he phoned me and he said, actually, I've come all the way back to Windsor. So I changed trains at Clapham Junction and went back to Windsor. And then realised, because I lived in Windsor at the time, I realised I had a ticket from Leatherhead to London. So obviously I got there, and the bloke, I mean, I just said, I'm not willing to give my name, I'm just paying the fine, 20 quid. I was all right with that, to be honest, because I'd made a mistake, it was my fault.
Cheaper than most train tickets.
Well, there was no point in saying to him, oh, you're not going to believe what's happened, because he was never going to believe me anyway. But this whole idea that the only people that get fined are the people that make mistakes, the malicious people will be protected by the law. It's just, why is, Curtis, can I ask you this question? Why is it always like this in Britain today?
Do you know, I take it back to school time, right? The naughty kids get a gold star and a trip at the end of the week when they're not naughty. The good kids that are always good, they don't get anything, and they get punished when they step out of line once. And that's exactly the world we've built, the country we've built.
Well, also, you know, when we got rid of capital punishment at school assemblies, that's when it really went
capital
downhill.
punishment at school assemblies.
Look,
No, just to be clear, we got rid of corporal punishment.
Oh, that's it.
Capital, I didn't even click on
There's
that.
no British school that ever had hanging, right? To my knowledge. To my knowledge.
There was a revolution. I think there was.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Little Johnny, you didn't do your homework. I will sentence you to be hung by the neck until you are dead.
At Westminster School in like 1700 and something, there was a rebellion by the pupils with guns and stuff.
Really? Well,
you know what these posh kids are like.
There's only one British school which has a military battle honour.
Is that the Westminster one? Is it?
No, it's Luxor High School. Right, it was a British school in Luxor, India, and when the Indian uprising, when the Indian mutiny took place,
Egypt, Luxor.
No, it's not Luxor, is it? It's the. Oh, I'll find it in a minute.
No.
It's not. It's not Lahore. Anyway, I'll find it. I'll find the name of it. Luxor's in Egypt, isn't it?
Yeah,
right, I'm going to find this now.
That's where all the old things are.
Look, let's do some more searching on this.
Right, okay. Trump wins legal stay over liberation tariffs. The Trump administration has won the right to keep its sweeping global tariffs in place after it was challenged. So that's interesting. Do you know anything about what's going on in the States?
It's Lucknow, not Luxor. Lucknow. Okay, fair enough.
With the tariffs, the court tried to overrule saying that they were unethical, that he couldn't do it, didn't have the power to do so.
And the court found he does.
On an appeal, it looks like he does.
Can I ask you a question about the front page of the Daily Telegraph? Chris Packham, right? Once again, he's now been accused of the countryside harming. Sorry, his TV crew harming the countryside.
What did he do?
Is he a bit strange?
How have they damaged it? Can you read it?
Yes, I can.
He trod on a newt or something. He'll be very upset if he has.
Ken Livingstone will be very upset. Oh, look at that newt, Hitler. Oh, named after Hitler. Okay, let's have a look. So here we go. The BBC has been accused of damaging the countryside in order to film Chris Packham's Spring Watch. The show is currently broadcasting live from the National Trust estate in the Peak District, home to threatened birds, protected insects and rare plants. But residents have accused the BBC of hypocrisy, saying that the show is actually damaging the environment as it built roads for lorries and placed steel pallets over the meadow where the wildflowers were about to blossom.
But it's not the worst thing the BBC have done recently, is it? Come on.
That's right. In terms of violating things, I'd rather it violated the countryside.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know, I mean, if you watch that, because he's got a career of about 200 years, David Attenborough, and if you watch him at the beginning, they were different with animals. He goes, oh, look, and there's the African hog, and he actually leaps on it and catches it and holds it to the camera. You know, they wouldn't do that these days.
Even like the noise, Steve Irwin used to jump on top of a crocodile.
Oh yeah, but that was his shtick, wasn't it? But that actually is what killed him, didn't it?
I love that. I've got this little spider in my hand. It's the most venomous creature, and if it bites me now, I'll die. But that would be my fault because I'm holding.
Seconds later, ow, he nipped me.
But that is unfortunately what killed him. It was great. I used to love his show. You know what I mean? It was brilliant.
He's got a son now who's just as nuts.
Yeah, well, I remember him when he was a baby, the daughter or the son, and they were walking around with crocodiles, at a 2-year-old.
He's quite the celebrity in America and Australia. Robert
and they run the zoo, don't they? They've got the zoo there in his name and all that.
I saw him interviewed on American TV, and they went, "What does Butte Bonza actually mean?" Butte Bonza.
Did he answer?
It was.
Yeah, he said, "Butte is beautiful and Bonza is great."
Yeah, fair dinkum.
It's almost like Jim Davidson. Beautiful, great, smash it, super great.
That's not Jim Davidson.
No, I've got all the names wrong today. That's Jim Bowen, Luxor,
Super
Jim
smashing
Davidson.
great bus fare home. I'm a bitter bully. Let's have a look. I think that's all. The Mac cartoon is there. Can you read it out and describe it for the viewers and listeners?
No. Give me 1 second. Let's try and look at
We all need ours. Well, in the meantime, I'll do the Metro. The Soaraway Metro, and 30 years of rewards from Tesco's, although you don't get as many bonuses. You used to get 4 times your value for your peak. Now it's like 2 times. You know, sort it out, Tesco. The end of the world is Nige.
It's Robert Jenrick walking on water at Dover, and they're saying, after tackling fur dodging, Robert Jenrick is now going to stop the boats.
Brilliant. That's why you pay him the big bucks. The end of the word is Nige, and embattled Keir Starmer has launched a surprise onslaught, really grasping at straws, against Nigel Farage, saying he would splurge billions and wreck Britain's economy. Did you see the ITV smug reporter that got his comeuppance from Nigel Farage when he said, have you got a magic money tree? Yeah. And he went, right, you started it. And he went out, I'm going to save 49 billion a year by scrapping net zero, 4 billion a year on the migrants, 5 million on DEI, and the guy was just left like looking an idiot.
Yeah, he was ready for it, wasn't he? He was ready for it.
He was so, but what a stupid, it shows how crap journalists are. That
they think they've got a
all right, son, let's not.
But
apart from the ones
really
in this building,
low quality, aren't they? Like the politicians, and that's why good politicians, they shine through, don't they?
Who do you reckon is the worst journalist in Britain? Is it Ash Sarkar?
Emily Maitlis, probably.
Emily Maitlis.
I mean, she called because
No, the worst journalist of them all is a man who's given up, who never pretended to be neutral. Lewis Goodall. John Sopel's a great one.
Did you see him the other day? He was going, oh well, how we used to make our comments to Trump is we'd say James O'Brien, he's obviously the king of the castle of buffoons.
What we should do is we should have a James O'Brien Award for dreadful journalism and give it away every year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean,
James O'Brien.
I was talking about that because what Jenrick did today, Farage used to do that sort of thing at the coast and all that, but he can't do that because of people like James O'Brien putting his life in danger. Yeah. He can't go and mingle in public.
Well, can you argue this headline here, Starmer, if now someone read this and then there was an attack on Nigel Farage, is he not inciting hate? Is he not inciting violence? Inciting fear?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a second. What was that from the gallery? Mention of Matthew Wright.
Matthew Wright. Oh yeah, did he's... Yeah.
Oh, no,
he's up there with the crap journalists.
Jeremy Vine.
Jeremy Vine, yeah.
He's cycling. With it cycling, come on.
Cycling alone.
Did you see when he went through all the messages and everyone was laughing? I know those funny messages about his wife. I mean, really, you shouldn't read them out on air. Right, OK, so we got a little break here again. Then let's do it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Robert Peston. Come on.
Well, I quite like he leaves massive pauses in, doesn't he? Because an hour show could be half an hour, but he does a...
Oh, so no,
cut it all out, all the
Victoria
gaps.
Derbyshire's up there.
Yeah, I wish she's sometimes
Kay Burley.
good, but she's sometimes
I like Kay Burley.
Not really.
Kay Burley.
Anyone is a bad journalist who's done the whole, oh, I meant to call him Jeremy Hunt. Oh, God, I can't believe I did that accidentally. Oh, come on.
I know someone who... It's a terrible story, but they'd been taking antibiotics, and Sky News sent Kay Burley's car to pick them up, and
oh no,
yeah, an accident on the leather.
What?
On Kay Burley's leather Mercedes back seat. Anyway, on that bombshell, Mike Graham's coming up at 6 a.m. Don't worry about that. Go and get ready, Mike.
Are you saying to me that somebody
soiled her the back
defecated?
Of her car? Yeah, but they couldn't help
Kay Burley's car.
It will be in my autobiography. It wasn't me. No, it wasn't me.
Was it your brother?
No. Record Sunny Spring to end.
Was it Roger Gewolb?
You're getting warmer, and it was getting warm. Anyway, records. This is the press preview, by the way. If you're listening in the morning or now, record sunny spring to end with a sizzle. This is officially the sunniest spring on record, with more still to come, because they're already telling us we can't, use hose pipes. They've got to build more reservoirs. In Emirates, they never run out of water, and it's a desert.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to get those people coming across on a boat with a bucket and just bring a bucket each. We can just fill it all back up. There's not enough of them.
Right, you're not going to believe what the United Arab Emirates has run out of. Sand. Right. You can't build with sand from the desert. You have to build from sand.
It's like British Rail, the wrong sort of sand.
So unbelievably, the Middle East has run out of sand. Can you imagine? That's the one thing they've got.
Sandcastles.
Oh, Owen Jones has been nominated.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Phone in and tell us who you think the worst journalists are and why. 0344 499 1000. Text us and send us a WhatsApp voice message.
The name escapes me. She escapes me. It's a female journalist. It's gone.
But that doesn't narrow it down.
What about that bloke? What about that bloke who goes, I used to be the top trader in the City of London, and I can tell you, that one. And you know what? I watched it, so I could see where he lived. He lived in a small one-bedroom flat in St Catherine's Dock. Now, I have met people, not St Catherine's Dock, in Garen Stevenson, in it's Limehouse Basin he lives. I mean, I don't have the address, so I wouldn't give it out anyway. But let me tell you something. People who are the biggest trader in the City of London do not have small flats in Tower Hamlets, right?
They use that as their shed.
Let's just be clear. Yeah, I was the biggest trader, and I can tell you why economics is wrong. Did they just fire you, Gary? Just a matter of interest.
She sat here, and James Whale told her to leave.
Who?
Narinder Kaur.
Narinder Kaur.
Narinder Kaur.
I told her to leave it in unison.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
No, I mean, she's all right, isn't she?
Right, I'll tell you what. We'll
she's
do,
more a celeb than a journalist.
Stop for a minute.
Nothing's factual that she said.
We're going to have a go. Who is Britain's most disreputable journalist?
If it comes up Andre Walker, we're stuffed.
It might. I'll tell you what. It'll come up as Kelvin McKenzie. I like Kelvin McKenzie, by the way. I don't mind him. I think
I'd like to distance myself from it.
Okay. Right.
You got it. I've got another story while you're looking at that. Rainer, I've popped pills, but drug law not changing.
Okay. Hang on a second.
But actually, she clarified it was only over the counter. Well, that's what her advisor told her.
No.
She was at that rave behind the decks, but I'm not saying anything. Obviously, she just means paracetamol. She says she took drugs. I've popped pills, she says, but drug law. But then she clarified after her advisor spoke to her, probably, that she meant over-the-counter drugs and stuff like that.
Right. I'm sorry, but I've just realised, and from a technical point of view, we have got the worst journalist in Britain. Surely the person that has to qualify is Hugh Edwards. I mean, you can't make a list without Hugh Edwards topping it. The man.
Well, I mean, he wasn't a bad. He was just a reporter, really. He was just an evil. He was a paedophile. So,
the man who lest we forget, traded pornographic material of children with somebody on the basis that he'd had to go to Cardiff University. That was the reason he cited.
The worst type of pornography not pornography, child abuse.
I'll tell you what I've never understood about Hugh Edwards was when somebody contacted him who was one of these people on Instagram, and he didn't just delete him, he met for a pint. I mean, why would you do that?
Well, they became so, they didn't care, did they? They got away with it quite a lot, didn't they? Especially
anyway,
at the BBC.
so we are looking for your nominations. 0344 499 1000. Who is Britain's worst journalist? I think now we've dispensed with Hugh Edwards, we can talk about the more jokey ones, can't we?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's forget about that one. Business is booming. Witchcraft casts a spell. Ken will be ringing in about that because it's the devil's work. Witchcraft is booming because politicians keep bleating on about witch hunts, according to a boffin. That's interesting. So they keep.
I love it when a boffin's involved.
It's a Daily Star. It's full of boffins. They don't have journalists. Professor Marion.
Whereas in the Sun, people are always caged, aren't they? Always caged. They're like offender caged. like they're just a wild animal that's.
Professor Marion Gibson said interest and spellcasters like the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wizard Wizard of Oz. I don't know what she's blabbering on about. Anyway, £4,600, that's entertainment. Parents fork out almost £4,600 per child each year.
What?
Just to keep them entertained, the poll suggests. Mums and dads spend around £454 on sports club activities, £480 on streaming.
£15,000 a year on your 3 children's entertainment?
Netflix is $8.99 a month.
Yeah, but your birthday parties, do you have birthday parties? That's a couple £100.
I saw something the other day. The average birthday party for a child costs £500.
Cinema trips in my day.
Where are they shopping?
It was about £2 the cinema. Now it's like 30 quid.
Yeah, it's gone up. The price has gone up. Although you go on a Saturday, I think it's. I've got
a great story about a kid's birthday party. I had a friend whose child went to school with Elton John, one of Elton John's sons. I don't know which one.
Elton Jr.
Doesn't really matter. Yeah. But anyway, they had a rule in the school. If you wanted to put out invitations in the school, you had to invite everyone in the class, or you couldn't invite anyone at all. Or
a lot of them do that. Yeah.
So
Stop bullying.
It's either invite everyone in the class, or you can't talk about it at the school at all. Right. So Elton John decides to have a birthday party for one of his kids. Right, and you know how they go. For the neurotic mums, right? We've got a glass of brandy or whatever, or sherry for the mums to come if they want to. So parents are already also allowed. Elton John said there's 14 kids and 28 parents. Right? It's an 8-year-old's birthday party. Right? Like
they don't want to go. Is that Elton John's house? Aren't they?
All gone.
They'll leave the kid. Where's your kid? Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah. Come on. Can we just adopt? Right? Can you imagine that? You've got a kid's birthday party where there are more adults than there are kids. Horrendous. So anyway, what do you do for a birthday party then?
My boys are lucky they're born in the same month. They're a year apart, but they're born in the same month, so we can do a joint birthday party, bouncy castle, hide at home.
I thought you had 3 kids, or is it third on the way?
Third on the way.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations, man. So how old are the other 2? Very young.
3 and 2.
Oh, all right. So you're really going for it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Busy.
Hey.
You left a little gap, but she needed a break, didn't she?
Well, I'll tell you what my parents did: made a load of party food and then played party games, and that was it.
Exactly that.
Do you do the food at home?
My mum will do the food. Nan will do the food.
Is that where you got your cooking thing from?
No.
Martin Bashir, that's a good call.
Martin Bashir's brilliant.
He's sort of an immoral journalist
from Sam in Lancashire. Well done.
Days or before that?
Yeah. So,
who's your favourite?
Everyone's nominated James O'Brien though.
Who's your favourite chef, your celebrity chef?
Gordon Ramsay, but then for Chris...
Because he was a chef, by the way, that's what... Gordon Ramsay. But he's a very vulgar potty mouth man, isn't he?
He is, but you've got to be in that industry.
Do you think he's good then? He's a good...
Yeah.
He's good
but or Heston. I like Heston with his experimental stuff.
Heston, yeah, he's...
The only problem is with Heston Blumenthal, to be fair...
snail porridge, brilliant.
I worked at Windsor Maidenhead Council when the Fat Duck was closed down, and I do think he has questions to answer. Not because I think the kitchens were dirty or whatever, but when
they were bottom feeders.
When norovirus broke out, which inevitably always does, if you use shellfish and all that sort of thing, he didn't take any real action for months and months and months on end. I mean, there was. I forget. Is his name?
He made the taste better, didn't he?
Yeah, there was that. Is it that Jim Rosenthal, the sports presenter, who he poisoned twice?
Did he?
I mean, that's bad.
But wasn't it because the shrimps were in a dodgy part of the sea where the sewage pipe came out?
Oh, well,
and they're actual bottom feeders.
I've got to be honest with you. The oysters that I here we go. And the oysters that I eat from Borough Market, they only have farmed. They won't have fresh because they don't want the seawater.
Don't take the risk.
Yeah,
seawater's nasty.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want seawater, man. Have you ever cooked? Do you do seafood? What's your special?
I do seafood. I like a salmon. You do a lot with salmon.
Salmon.
Yeah. Penetrate it with marinade.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Anxiety at worst level since COVID. More people feel anxious every day than before the pandemic, research suggests. Don't people have to just, buck up their ideas and snap out of it?
We've got a Labour government with Sir Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. What more can
Everyone's victims, aren't they? Yeah, of course we're going to be worried.
We've caused mental health problems on an unprecedented scale. That lockdown was child abuse. Fact.
Yeah, but also you look at the state of this country. People are thinking it's existential what's going on in this country. People are anxious just to go out in the evening now, aren't they?
You still see people walk around with masks on at the moment.
Oh, I hate those people.
They're criminals now, the ones you see with the masks on. Or old people who are worried because they got frightened.
I love that. Anyone who wears a mask is a criminal. Right, there we go. Well done there.
I just arrest them. Question them. Ukraine hits Russia with drones blitz. Important targets struck in onslaught. Ukraine has launched a massive drone attack on Russia, striking several key targets. A swarm of the devices headed towards Moscow and its surrounding region with some penetrating air defence systems to inflict devastating... It seems to be heating up, this war, doesn't it? Because Russia did a big attack on Kiev the other day, and it's coming back, and Trump's saying, well, I don't know what, he's a very bad man. I thought he was all right, he's changed. What do you think is going to happen? Are we heading to World War III?
I think it's gone for too long for World War III
for
to
it
happen.
Not to be World War III.
I think good job Pakistan and India. Slow down. We need to sort what's going on with Israel at the moment. Obviously, sort that out. Make sure that gets dealt with. And that these two.
The big problem is we've got. This is the worst bit. You don't want to reward people who behaved in a bad way. Yeah. But I maintain that giving those Russian-speaking parts of Ukraine back to Ukraine, even though Russia invaded, even though it's been a disgrace, I just don't see what they're going to do. I don't think Crimea should go back to Ukraine. And I say that I'm on Ukraine's side. Well, and obviously most Ukrainians are not going to feel I'm on their side for saying that.
But you've actually helped out Ukraine, didn't you, with drones? You actually got them and took drones over there, didn't you?
I was the biggest toy exporter to Ukraine.
Because they are classed as drones rather than weapons.
Well, you know what they did with them? They used the old Securicore trucks, and they got old iPhones, and they got the drones, and attached hand grenades to them.
I mean, that is the new warfare.
Fly them over tanks and just drop them.
And
and I'll tell you something, if a tank is in a fixed location and the drone's fixed, you can they open the hatch, bloody thing goes straight.
Well, now they've been doing it that long that Russia have developed, and they're actually, Ukraine are now the leading, one of the leading drone attackers. And it's horrendous, the war. I mean, I've seen soldiers saying they're far more terrified of a drone than a man, because it's like, it's basically when archers came in, 500, about 700-800, longbow. They said, oh, that's cheating, you should fight with the sword man to man. So they've always said that's cheating, and then rifles was cheating, and now it's drones is cheating, but it's all warfare, but it's terrible. And you see guys running from like drones, and you've got no
horrendously. I mean, a Bayraktar, you can basically not hear it. The last thing you're going to hear is when you are in pieces on the floor.
But that's better. I mean, the thing is, the ones you can hear, you can see them coming to you, and those North Koreans.
No, you can hear. What you can hear is.
Yeah. And you can't go anywhere.
You can't see it. You don't know where it is.
And the North Koreans, they were all basically, the Russians brought 10,000 North Koreans to act as cannon fodder, so they could use them to get rid of the drones for their real troops. He's just given North Korea a new missile defence system, so that's what that was all about. And these guys from North Korea had never seen any warfare in their life. Suddenly they're getting blown up with a drone, and it was terrible. They were getting on the internet and looking at things that they'd never seen, made their hair curl in North Korea.
Do you know the amazing thing about North Korea? They don't know Kim Jong-un is fat. They do not know he's fat.
It's all muscle.
Can I tell you why? They've never seen a fat person.
He's the only fat man in North Korea.
So because he's the only fat person in North Korea, they don't know what a fat person is. They just look at him and go, that's what he looks like.
We all want to look like that.
Unbelievable.
Right, so have we got a little breaking? Let's back in 2 minutes.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk. And you know what? Really pleased to have Curtis Hinton. Tell us a little bit about your show and what you're doing.
We're building essentially a current affairs programme, news, current affairs, but it's honest. We talk about the actual facts.
What, you're saying we're not honest?
Well, no, I'm not saying you're not honest, but...
we've had him on, so we can't do that.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
But we got an array of different people from all different walks of life.
A smorgasbord.
And it's I've got 10 co-hosts across the week.
Have you?
And they're all
Andre's on some, isn't he?
Andre does
Lois
a bit.
Perry's on some.
Lois Perry's on some.
Who else? Dr. Roger Gavold.
He did make an appearance this week.
Who else is on it?
We've got James Pembridge, Gary Mon, Nick Lissack. Big.
No, so of those people, is Lissack the problem child? Like we had a group meeting yesterday, and Lissack just got lost.
He did, yeah.
He got lost on the way.
Yeah, we had a meeting.
It was like Mark Thatcher.
He rocked up about 8:30, I think, in the end.
Unbelievable. Well, look, it's great. I'll tell you one thing that I always think. And on a serious note, you know, some people think that we're all in competition with each other, and to a tiny extent that's true. But I always think it's important that we stick together, because we're not going to be able to have free speech in this country. We're not going to have a genuine democracy if we allow these lefties at the BBC to pick people off one by one. I don't support when we always call it the other place, actually, when they have a go at the other place. I don't think it would be great if that rival disappeared, because I just genuinely think that the end result would be they just come for us next.
Yeah, without a doubt. The thing is that the left are all so together. They're all supporting each other, and they've got the biggest platforms. Yeah. The right is fragmented, and that's the thing with it. And
but have you seen today the news? I think it was JD Vance and Trump was saying, well, actually, we're going to have to start putting people on sanctions list from Ofcom. They won't be allowed in the States. And lefty sort of reporters, they're actually, and quite right.
Yeah. But can I defend Ofcom for a minute? And just this, what I want to defend them on is this ludicrous situation where, first of all, they've been given regulations that are just unimplementable, and secondly, they've now been given the power to come up with their own regulations and then implement them themselves.
And it'll be personal.
And it'll be online. If they do it online, that'll be the end. That really will be the end. And JD Vance actually said, you know, there'll be repercussions. There'll be no trade deal. You're going to be affecting American companies. We already saw they took the encryption away from the Apple thing. Yeah. And yet there's not been any comeback on that. But they've sent a delegation, haven't they, the Americans?
But the left don't care about damaging the British economy, just as long as they shut us up.
Yeah.
But they're panicking now. You could see Starmer today at that press conference after the Farage speech. They're starting, but the press are now turning on him, and they'll just like go for Rayner, won't they, for the next?
That's the thing. They'll position the person who they want in next.
Can I ask you about this allegation? Just randomly, this allegation that the cutting of US aid is likely to cause civil war in African countries. I mean, it's nonsense, isn't it?
It's just like the Brexit fear, isn't it?
We know the money doesn't get to the people; it gets to the leaders, and it stops and it goes in their pockets. We know the majority of that.
I mean, they had that chief of Lesotho who he was asking for British aid. He had a Maybach that had cost him £500,000. Yeah. And you know, the UK aid people said, well, you're willing to sell your car? No, I need my car. Oh, really, do you? Because we'll pay. I think in a lot of cases, and Gaza is the ultimate example where aid has made people poorer by a long way, because if it wasn't for the amount of aid, and Gaza's a very extreme example, but if it wasn't for
we're paying the most aid out of any country to Hamas, literally to Hamas.
If it wasn't for the ability to steal aid from Gaza, the people of Gaza probably would have a sensible government.
Yeah. And did you see, because Hamas are very annoyed because America have taken over the aid to stop the Hamas terrorists nicking it, and it's really annoying Hamas, and because UN are in cahoots with Hamas, there should be a prescribed terror organisation. They said to any NGOs, you know, you'll be struck off our list if you don't. And they're getting like the mafia. The UN literally are working hand in hand with Hamas to try and stymie this aid, giving the aid to the people, because it's annoying Hamas because they can't nick it and sell it, and they're selling water bottles for $20 each to their own poor people who they won't give in a shelter, even they've got hundreds of miles of tunnels, and these IDF soldiers just giving it out to them. I mean, so this is why they don't like it. But the thing is, the UN are backing it. The UN, who the other day said 14,000 babies are going to die in the next 48 hours, which was a total blood libel and lie. And then the BBC and all the other ones go with it, and then sort of nothing happens after. It's ridiculous.
There's no repercussion. But the moment someone posts a tweet on X about something that they criticise with the government,
3 years in prison. Let the paedophiles out to get space for the housewife.
It's absolutely right. I mean, one thing that just worries me is when you see these countries and you think, no, look, I understand, say, third world debt. I understand things like infrastructure projects being built. But putting everyone on the social forever and allowing the leadership to take a cut, bad government is a killer. And people forget that. Bad government, bad policing, lack of these boring things, contract enforcement, this idea that if I sign a deal with Asher, it'll be upheld by the courts. Stupid things like this need to be supported, but we don't. The UN doesn't care. Oh, have your hand in the till, it's all fine. And then they had the Sex for Food programme, which, because this is going out in breakfast time, we're not going to talk about. But I mean, just an obscenity of what people were being forced to do for a bag of grain.
It all gets nicked by the despots. I mean, you look at what Hamas, they were literally the richest leaders in the world. They were worth 3 and 4 billion. In fact, there's a couple of them still alive, probably not for much longer, but they're worth billions of pounds because they stole the aid from the people of Gaza.
I mean,
it's a business.
Yasser Arafat, doesn't his wife live in the entire top floor of a Paris hotel?
Yeah. He's worth millions.
She's got the whole floor.
But still, the Hamas leaders, they're worth 3 or 4 billion each. I mean, that just tells you everything. And Qatar are basically the sort of legitimate side of Hamas and the Islamic Brotherhood, buying up stuff all over here and in the States and sponsoring.
We need to be careful, don't they, on this building?
London School of Economics, only 80% of it. Anyway, we've got the lease.
I mean, unbelievably, the Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund banned the serving of alcohol in parts of the Palace of Westminster because they owned it. Wow. Can you imagine? The British Parliament is not allowed to serve alcohol.
I used to go to Bourneville College of Further Education next to Selly in Birmingham, and it's a Quaker, because it was set up by Cadbury's here, Bourneville, and it was a rule there were no pubs there. And when Tesco's opened about 20 years ago, they wanted to sell alcohol, went to court, and the court said, no, you can't sell booze because you're in, it's a chartered town, Bourneville, you can only sell chocolate. Anyway,
did you not know that the Quakers?
Know that
the Quakers got people drinking chocolate as part of the temperance movement. That's why all of them.
So the only thing they sell there is chocolate.
If you go to Bourneville, if you go to Bourneville now in Birmingham, it's like Stamford Hill with the Hasidic, but they walk around. They all look like the guy on the front of the Quaker Oats thing. You know, the stockings and the hat. They all walk around like that with their families.
Yeah. They genuinely believed that if they got people to drink chocolates, they wouldn't drink beer.
It's funny, isn't it? Because Fry's and Cadbury's and there was Terry's, they were all Quakers, and they all actually knew. They went to school together, and I remember one of the Cadbury's people moved over the road from my house, and the milkman said, "Oh, you've got the chocolate people moving on over there," and she thought he was being racist. She said, "I don't mind." She thought he was being racist. He was a nice man, Cadbury.
The chocolate people.
Yeah, she thought the milkman's being racist, but he was actually a lovely man, and he didn't mean that.
The chocolate people.
Yeah, that's what she thought he was being racist.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Look, as we come to the end of this press preview, because it's going to be a big week next week. What do we think? I mean, can Keir Starmer survive, Curtis?
No, I think he'll be gone before the summer is over.
Because I mean that video. I mean, we're not going to show the video this morning, but or tonight. But that video of him going. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage. He must have said Nigel Farage about 25 times.
He's living in his brain. I think Farage said that. You know,
but how does Starmer leave? Because he's so deluded that he thinks people still like him.
I think today, if you look at the press conference, I think the pressure was on him, and I think he's worried about other things that are going on that we probably can't talk about. You know, there's stuff going on there, and the press had turned on him today, if you watch that. So it looks like things are changing round, but probably not for the better.
Of course, the great danger of Keir Starmer is that he will resign as Prime Minister and become a law lord in the Supreme Court. and actually continue his harmful reign.
But where has he been successful? He wasn't successful as a prosecutor.
No.
He's not successful as a Prime Minister. So why on earth would anyone with a brain
he won the McLibel case, didn't he?
I'll tell you what I find extraordinary about him, that he's so symptomatic of the problem that exists in this country. If you think about it, when he sat there and he goes, well, I was the director of public prosecutions, but it's not my fault we didn't prosecute Jimmy Savile. Well, whose fault was it? Well, I didn't look at the piece. And I'll tell you what, one of the most perceptive things that Asher has ever said on this show, and believe me, there is actually a number, was when he started saying, you notice Keir Starmer always turns around and says, well, I didn't look at that piece of paper. I wasn't aware of it. It's all plausible deniability.
It's a lawyer thing, isn't it? It's like Arsene Wenger when there was a penalty again. Oh, I didn't see anything. On a much more serious basis. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay,
Mike Graham's
so we are
coming
now...
up.
We are still going to talk about... the people that, the journalists that you think are the worst. Aaron Bastani has been nominated by Andrew. Do you know Aaron Bastani?
No.
I used to work at Russia Today.
Okay.
Let's do a recap on who the worst journalists are.
Obviously, the serious one is Hugh Edwards. We're not going to dwell on that. So we've got Marcin Bashir, Owen Jones, James O'Brien, Narinder Kaur, who's the one that James Whale threw out. James O'Brien's been...
Emily Maitlis and John Sopel, that's all a given, isn't it, though?
Matthew Wright, you left him off.
Matthew Wright. Yeah, I like Matthew Wright, though.
I like Matthew Wright, but he's not... he doesn't know what he's on about.
Oh, the gallery just lit up with hatred.
You shouldn't like Matthew Wright.
Who else?
Someone says Madeley, but I like Madeley. He used to work here. Richard Madeley's top banana.
Martin Bashir's going to win, isn't he?
Does Philip Schofield go in this or not?
No. Well, maybe. Oh, Holly Willoughby.
Holly Willoughby.
Come on.
They're very hard-hitting journalists, yeah.
Yeah. The gallery's saying that Holly Willoughby does not count. Okay. No, hang on. Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield, because they did one journalistic thing that was covering Her Majesty the Queen's funeral, and they used it to get in. We've also got Robert Peston on the list.
I think he's quite good. He's actually, released some big... The Credit Crunch, wasn't it that him? He's done some big stories, hasn't he?
Oh, Lewis Goodall.
Lewis Goodall.
Okay, so thank you so much for watching and listening to this paper review. Mike Graham is up just in a couple of moments.
Clean the studio.
And if you are still here on Thursday night going into Friday morning, thank you so much. 03444991000. No, you're up for staying.
He's going.
Oh, you are
We've
going.
got a special guest coming.
Is going.
Call us now for the last hour and we're going to have a chat, whatever you want to talk about.
Is it Andrew Eborn or Roger Gewolb? No, it's not either of those people.
He left on horseback.
Yeah, it's great. So, Curtis, thank you so much. Where can we follow you?
Curtis.
At Curtis L. Hinton on all socials.
Okay.
Looks like Jim Carrey.
If you want to call us about bad journalists, we'd love to chat over this. Get your James O'Brien calls in. 03444991000. Tweet at Virtual Ash.
At Andre JP Walker.
It's becoming tiresome now. Now, I've taken a couple of weeks off YouTube, but please do follow me nonetheless. You just search Andre Walker. We'll be back just in a couple of moments.
Call us.
03444991000. See you in a couple of moments.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's Talk, and this is our phone, and we've got Tristan from Southend in the studio. How are you, big boy?
I'm very well, thank you.
Who is your worst journalist?
Worst journalist, Kay Burley. Without
we've got to introduce you.
Yeah.
He's a super fan, but he's now a political correspondent as well. He lives in Southend, but he's down in London town for the night to come. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Tell us a bit
about
resume. Right, I'm registered blind.
But yeah, that was later on in life.
That was later on in life. Been following politics from the age of about 13. Absolutely love it. It's just my hobby, and I've stood as a political candidate 3 times.
And lost 3 times.
And lost 3 times.
Who did you stand for?
I shouldn't reveal
the
this.
BNP?
Really.
No.
Liberal Democrats twice and an independent.
Now, I want to ask you another question, which I think is close to a lot of people's hearts on this channel.
Yeah.
And it's this. You publicly admitted you were Jewish after the attack of the 7th of October.
That's
Explain what happened.
Right.
Not on the 7th of October, clearly. I don't want to be facetious.
Yeah, what happened was I heard about it. I saw a lot of the propaganda on the... Well, not sorry, I heard the propaganda on Twitter and X, and I thought, no, I've got to come out about this and be quiet.
And why were you afraid before? Or was it a fear afraid?
It was the fear of being judged. And people turning
what
on
would
me.
people judge you for?
The thing is, it's actually after the October 7th you get judged worse, don't you?
You do, absolutely, Ash, but you've got to make a stand. Of
course you have, yeah.
110% and come out and say these things. But now I have lost friends over this.
Really?
Yeah, but you didn't want those sort of friends, do you?
No, if that's their views.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I'll tell you where it is hurtful, so I agree with that. If you've ended up with trash and they've walked out, that's fine. But to think that somebody could look at a terrorist atrocity and say, bloody good on you.
Yeah, well, it's like Douglas Murray said, it was things like this, when things like this happen, you know, it's like a flare has gone in the air and you can see where everyone is.
Yeah, Douglas Murray is an absolute hero.
He's brilliant, but if you get the police call his books Brexity, you know, so be very careful. Anyway, it's your call, 03444991000. Let's start the day in a godly way.
Can I just say to you that Martin in Whitley Bay has rebuked us, Tristan, for saying that, and by the way, there's a glass of water just in front of you there. I don't know if you can see that.
Thank you.
But, OK.
It's lemonade, look, there's bubbles.
OK, great. So,
he's very demanding.
Somebody has said that Jeremy Bowen from the BBC...
Yeah, this was the man who, when a missile from Islamic Jihad hit a hospital, and he blamed it on Israel and said 500 people have been killed, you know, within a minute, which is ridiculous anyway. And when it was pointed out it was rubbish, he said, well, will you apologise? He went, no, like a little child.
Yeah.
I don't know how people revere him and say, oh, he was a good... He's an unbelievable
And this was Mark from where, Andre?
This is Mark from Whitley Bay.
Mark, you're quite correct.
Hey, man, in Whitley Bay.
OK, so keep it in your worst journalist and why. Look, you can keep nominating James O'Brien. It's
all the gurning. No, she is awful. That was a bit
go.
like a female Jeremy Bowen.
Let's go for Ken in London. Ken, how are you?
Hallelujah.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, Ken. Good evening.
Morning.
I'd just like to talk about the witchcraft is booming.
I know, we talked about that. Let's hear your sermon.
Yeah, this is big time business. This is taking over much of the Western world and the rest of the world.
Since Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is one of them. Yeah, it's very dangerous for young children to watch that in their rooms at night.
Because you say it's linked to the Antichrist, don't you? Satan and all that.
Well, it's all driven by Satan and demons. Yes, yes, Ash. Yes, it's a real supernatural evil religion. And in fact, right now the Bible tells us that Satan is the god of this world, and every nation on earth is under the power of the works of the enemy, Satan. Every government in the world is being driven and directed by satanic forces. Every government.
Ken, what would you say the consequences are for practicing witchcraft in this day and age, according to the Bible?
That's a good question. The consequences of practicing witchcraft and coming under witchcraft is that we open ourselves up to demonic possession, demonic control over minds, and destruction of our lives. The whole purpose of the demonic power is to destroy us. The Bible
is it? Can look? I disagree with you on this. not on practicing witchcraft, right? Let's just be clear. But I think trick or treating and things like that are just a little bit of fun that kids have a bit of a laugh
It's
with.
American, isn't it? I don't think we should do those American things. Never had it in my day. Ken, is trick or treating satanic?
Of course it is. Listen, this is doorways for the devil to enter a person's mind. The Bible clearly informs us that magic is real and God condemns it. Sorcery, divination, witchcraft, consulting with the dead. Now, here's a thought for everybody. You know the way they worship Mary in the Catholic Church? That is what it's called Mariolatry. It's idolatry. It's worship of a dead person. And the Catholic Church promote trying to contact the spirit of Mary. That is necromancy, and it's hidden up in a religion.
But what about like people like Paul Daniels? Now that's magic. Is that Satan? Because it was just an entertainment show.
See the guy who used to come on your show with James, who bent the spoons. What's his name?
Still comes on, Uri Geller.
Yeah, he's a wizard.
Yeah, I know.
A witch is a female. A witch is a female who practices magic. A wizard is a male who practices.
Is Uri going to be all right though? Like when he
but
gets...
hang on a second, Uri Geller is a magician who comes on.
He's not a magician.
He insists he can only do 3 or 4 magic tricks, but he does do them quite well. But surely nobody believes this claim that Yuri makes, that he's genuinely bending spoons with his mind.
I've seen him do remote viewing, and he did tests with the CIA that confirm he can remote view.
He didn't work for intelligence agencies, right? He's an entertainer who makes it up for the purpose of keeping... I'm not mocking him.
Gentlemen, when I lived in Canada, we used to do ministry amongst the Canadian Native Indians, the Sioux, the Blackfoot. We used to do ministry amongst them. And right now in Canada and North America, they practice witchcraft. What they do over there, they practice what they call...
And look what's happening in Canada. But anyway, look, Ken, we've got a witch. Your friend Yasmin, away you go. Have a go at Ken about witchcraft.
Hi, Yasmin.
Hi.
Hi. You're very annoyed about what Ken's been saying.
By the way, I'm having a bag of crisps.
No, I'm not. I'm not annoyed about what he says. He's just got a different viewpoint. What I'd like to say is witchcraft actually isn't a religion, it's a practice. And it's to do with the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, and to worshipping the earth, Mother Earth, looking after Mother Earth. And there's different parts of witchcraft. Do you know what I mean?
Yasmin.
And the other thing, yes.
Yasmin, Tristan here. Have you got a reading for Ken, please?
Ken who?
Ken.
Oh,
Ken
that is
from
very
London.
hurtful. Very hurtful.
Ken, you mean Ken the pastor?
That's the one, yeah.
No, I could never do that because it'd be absolutely against his morals.
Good point, yeah.
I would never...
Would you like her to do a reading for you, Ken?
No readings for me. Never allow...
Because of the powers of the Antichrist.
Let me just say something. I believe live and let live. As long as somebody's not harming somebody
Great Bond
else,
film.
live and let live, yeah, definitely. I also was thinking about everything and what Ken was saying about Yeshua, or Jesus, as people know him in this country. Jesus went to Egypt and studied the mysteries in Egypt. Also, the first depiction of Jesus, the first actual, well, it's like graffiti, but depiction of Jesus was him holding a wand. There's a couple of pictures of him holding a wand. Like,
Ken, did Jesus hold his wand?
Listen, that's absolute nonsense. Jesus was never in Egypt. Jesus never left Israel during his lifetime.
Well, Yasmin says different.
He never went to Egypt in this situation.
Well, let's decide. Let's work it out.
To Egypt, and it was written down in the holy book of the Muslims that he went to Egypt. And also, Ken, I'll tell you something else about Jesus that you might not know. He used to live near the sea in the Nile in Egypt. And I'll tell you something, one of the first things he ever did was that he made birds out of clay, touched them, and they flew.
That's in the Quran, it's nonsense.
Now that's magic. Hang on a second. Just to be clear, didn't Jesus go into the wilderness in Sinai? That's in Egypt.
No, that's the people of Israel for 40 days, 40 years.
Right, fine.
Ken,
and now into the promised land. And now there's
Ken,
been all this kerfuffle ever since.
Can I just ask you, just to really spice up this conversation, what do you say about protesters who say Jesus was a Palestinian?
Well, that's absolutely nonsense. Jesus is the king. He's born the king of the Jews, born the king of Israel. It's in the Bible. He was born the king of Israel. When the three wise men came to search for Jesus, they were looking for the one who was to be born the king of Israel. And he's still the king of Israel, the Messiah. He's coming soon. This is not a joke. Listen, this world has been taken over by witchcraft. You name it, the world is going to be becoming so evil, especially against children. Children have been abused by
Ken, let me just once again, and I'm just going to ask a very similar question. I mean, there's got to be a delineation between somebody who is doing some sort of Satan worshipping, I don't know how real that is, and this Bible of Satan and all this sort of thing, and somebody who dresses up as a wizard at a school party for end of term when they're 5.
Andre, you need to be careful. You're a Freemason. That is totally driven by Satan.
I'm sorry, I don't accept that.
What's wrong with the Freemasons then?
I don't accept that.
Freemasonry is a demonically
Can I just say something,
religion.
please?
Ken?
Can I just say something?
Ken, have you ever had treatment on the NHS?
Oh.
Well, I can guarantee you the Freemasons almost certainly have contributed towards that hospital.
Reasonable point, actually.
Yeah.
Reasonable point. Ken is going to refuse the air ambulance. As a result.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Ken keeps going on about Satan. Satan was a Greek deity, and it was a Greek deity. He was called Saturnius, and what they used to do once a year was raid different villages, take women back, marry them, and that's where Satanus came from. It's not.
You can believe that,
and
Jasmine.
Lucifer was an angel who is the god of light.
Yasmin, are Freemasons going to heaven? Yasmin, are Freemasons going to heaven?
Personally, I believe there's divine energy in everything, and I also believe the Freemasons do a lot of good. They're a bit like the Round Table. They've got their own private secrets, but they also have one thing: a brotherhood and a ladyhood of Freemason ladies. I was gifted a clock from 1740s from the Freemasons.
I'll tell you what we could do. Why don't we get Ken to come to the Grand Temple in Covent Garden? Yeah. Right, come on,
and
Ken.
Enjoy himself.
You'd enjoy yourself.
There'll be nibbles and everything.
Do you know that
we've got sausage rolls?
Invite him to a synagogue as well.
In Western society are Freemasons. The Catholic Church is ruled by Freemasons.
The Catholic Church excommunicates Freemasons.
Parliament, the Houses of Parliament. You can be guaranteed that the vast majority of politicians are Freemasons. You check it all out. The Freemasonry is demonic.
But hang on a second. I'm the worshipful master of a lodge for people who work in the Palace of Westminster, and I can guarantee you the vast majority are not Freemasons. But in any case, look, here's my point that I would answer back. I believe that what the Freemasons do is a force for good. I believe it's a society that makes people better. I would be perfectly happy with every member of Parliament and every member of the House of Lords being a Freemason. The reason we have not attempted to do that is because we don't believe everybody would benefit from what we do. Therefore, you invite some people and don't invite others. But I would be perfectly proud to have everyone as a member.
We're talking here a lot of bad news. Let me just give you some quick good news to everybody, to you.
Yeah, let's balance it out a bit. Yeah,
and you, Jasmine. Jesus Christ is God manifest in the flesh. He died for our sins and rose from the dead, went back to heaven. He's coming back soon in judgment. The greatest promise in the Bible offered to everyone is this. It's in Romans chapter 10. Read it tonight. Whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. It's the greatest promise to me, and I am saved because I've called upon the name of Jesus for forgiveness, and I believe in him. If we want victory in your life, it's victory in Jesus, and his name, his blood, his death, his resurrection, his ascension, his second coming. He's coming soon. The King is coming in judgment. Waking up, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Jasmine, we'll give you the final word, and I just want to ask everybody, in terms of the worst journalist in Britain, why did nobody get Polly Toynbee? What about Yasmin Alibi Brown?
Isn't Politoyne being
Can I
Wales?
just say something? Can I just say something, Andre?
Yep.
You probably know this because your mind's like a computer.
Right, ZX81.
King, do you remember that king hundreds of years ago said, evil beats it, evil who thinks it?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Yeah, well, that's what I think about Ken. He thinks evil about everybody. Where's the love? Where's the joy? Where's the passion?
He's full of joy. He sings songs and that, doesn't he?
I mean, all he does is...
Oh, yeah, Yasmin, you got any predictions? Because last time you said someone was watching over me.
Yeah, you've got a male behind you. It's
Tristan's in the office. It's Tristan.
After the date I had last week, I could do with it.
It's just a man's behind you, Asher.
Sorry, Yasmin, yeah, go on. What about this bloke behind me then?
Well, you've got a tall male behind you.
Yeah.
But it's not
he
Tristan.
Was more of a scholar. He's definitely a family member.
Yeah.
And he's definitely like a great uncle. And I'll also, I got a message for you, but I wasn't able to give it you last week.
I did have one, yeah. Changed to Bob.
You know the King Solomon, he's got a special stone, and it's the stone of Elat. Get a ring with that stone in. It's very protected.
Because actually my great-great-grandfather's surname was Solomon.
Well, I got told you've got to have Solomon's stone, which
I'll
is
get one.
the stone of Elat.
What does
Okay,
Tristan?
I
What's
used to
your
go to
prediction?
that quite a lot. I used to go there.
What's your prediction
And
for
I
it?
also feel
Tristan.
for your guest.
Mm.
I also
Tristan.
feel for your guest
Yeah.
that August is going to be very significant this year, and I do see a love heart around it. So I also believe that when I look at the energy of you, I feel as though you've got, how can I put it? It's like you've just, in the last, since you've really been talking on here, you've come into your own to communicate more, and I think that's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Do you think I've got a future in broadcasting?
He knocked the camera though when he came in.
Definitely.
It's blind. I mean,
Nevertheless, that's no excuse.
The one good thing about you is you listen to everybody, and you've got a gentle way of persuasion, which is excellent.
Oh, lots of love, Yasmin. Thank you.
I don't know your birthday, but if I knew the first two numbers of your birthday and your month, I'd be able to tell you more.
Okay, 0101.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're a leader. Your energy's leader. And I'll tell you another thing about you as well. If you ever have your horoscope done, you've got Gemini rising, which is excellent.
What if he has his endoscope done?
And it's to do with communication.
Yeah.
I also feel with you, I see you on a plane, and I see you going somewhere brilliant.
I'm on a plane.
It could be America. It could be, I feel I've got America
Afghanistan.
there with you as well.
Yeah, Andre's private jet.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. Yeah.
That's right. Dre Force One.
Andre's fantastic for you because he's brought you out yourself, which is
okay.
give you that confidence to lift you. And
Still
that's
knocked the camera when he came in though.
Andre, do you want me to tell you something about you, or are you scared of the demons?
Yeah, go on, yeah.
Go on.
Right, I feel as though there's movement around your home.
Well, we know that. We've been talking about that he's moved. Every night we talk about that.
I feel also with you, you're going somewhere where there's a lighthouse.
Oh.
I also feel around you. Oh, they just showed me Portsmouth.
Portsmouth?
What are you going there for?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you are. If Yasmin says it, you are.
I'm just telling you, I've got the word Portsmouth.
Say what you
so
see.
I've got to tell you. I also feel as though when I'm looking at you as well, you go into a very, a bar that it's
I mean, I'm going to
anyone can say that every night.
It's a bar.
Yeah.
And you know the weird thing I saw? BBC. Isn't that weird? Oh, the other thing is...
I'm not going to the bar in the BBC. I value my integrity.
One of those dodgy bars.
Look, I've just told you what I see. The other thing I saw the other day when I saw you was that, you know, that GB News thing?
Never heard of it.
It popped in my mind that they're going to try and poach you.
Oh,
like an egg.
Okay, Yasmin, thank you. And we're just going to send that to the boss of Talk and say that obviously GB News yesterday offered me double the pay. I'm lying. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. And Tristan, so you've job hunted, haven't you, recently? And just to explain, obviously, you were the manager of a homeless shelter. All great. You had an epileptic fit, and you became blind. Now, just to explain, so I understand it, blind people are not completely blind, are they?
Some are.
They can see shadows, like silhouettes. That's
Well,
what I'm
some
seeing
don't.
right
I mean,
now.
not if you're born blind. You don't. You're different, obviously. But
That would be different, yeah. But I've got.
So what can you see now? Presumably with the quite bright lights, it's much easier today.
It's a little bit easier. I can make out that this is dark in front of me. I can see where your faces are pale, and that's about it.
That's because of the makeup.
So you can see round shapes for faces.
That's correct.
Can you see this movement that's going on here?
I can currently, yeah.
So actually, in a sense, you've got an amount of vision that would help you avoid danger in many cases.
Still not the camera when he came in, but the thing is, you've got very cool shades on.
Oh, thank you.
Wouldn't you actually see more if you could see a bit of light without them?
No, because it would hurt my eyes. It really hurts if I don't wear them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Especially in bright light.
The light, yeah.
Yeah, because there's still tiny bit of vision in the retinas.
So receptors.
Yeah, absolutely. And where they're detached, it causes pain.
You got detached retinas because you banged your head so hard.
I landed on my face, basically.
And that detached your retinas. But there is hope, isn't there, that they may be able, especially with AI, which is snowballing. Do you think they'll be able to do... I mean, can you get donors of retinas, or can you get... I mean, there'll be... Elon Musk, I think, was working on something with his Neuralink.
That's it, yeah. He's come up with a device.
So quite hopeful that something quite soon can come up with the development of technology.
Do you believe... So we can talk about it a bit more, but do you believe that by the time you die, you'll be either an epileptic or blind?
Of course not. No.
Right. You don't believe you'll be blind?
No, I've probably got another 20, 30 years in me, and I will see and not be epileptic again by the end of it.
So you believe that your epilepsy will be cured and your blindness will be cured. I have to say to you, age 46, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to raise false hopes for people, because we are talking about speculation.
Sure.
But we are talking about 50% of our medical knowledge existing being created in the past 5 years.
But the thing is, with the AI developments, within a couple of years, the AI will actually be programming itself. I mean, it might kill us all anyway, but it's the medical advances, because when you think about calculations that a computer can do, it's ridiculous. It could take us years, it can do in a minute. And so it will be able to develop and program, and there should be some miraculous medical discoveries in the next 5 years.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain of it, Ash. And the vision that that Elon Musk is creating now.
Yeah.
There's a much cheaper alternative they've invented in China, and that's more likely to be the one that the National Health Service will use.
Always the
obviously,
cheaper
of course.
one.
But now we're getting into the details. I mean, do you believe that you'll have donor eyeballs, donor retinas, something like? Do you remember that bloke off
Star Trek?
Off Star Trek,
a Google Glass type thing that will be connected to your brain via some Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and it will be a Neuralink. I mean, it is quite feasible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen, Ash. I have every faith.
Ash, remove your foot from my microphone.
Phil in Worthing. Phil,
you're on talk. Come on, Phil. Phil, put him up.
Oh, sorry, I should have put him up there. Phil.
Hello, boys. Hello, Andre. Hello, Ash.
Hello.
Tristan.
Hello. Good evening, Phil.
What's up, man?
Good evening, Tristan. Firstly, before I talk about what I wanted to talk about, can I just, first of all, because I found that fascinating conversation with Tristan, obviously about site improvements in the future. Can I just say that Tristan should be, he's a wonderful guy, and he's a very good communicator. He should be a brilliant disability advisor for the government.
Do you think? Yeah, I could do medicals for the DWP and things like that, couldn't I? Just
You're a great communicator. You've got loads of beans, and that's what we need. Somebody who knows what it's like, who can talk it as it is, you know, and talk truth to power.
I appreciate that, Phil. Thank you very much.
Do you know, actually, what about the Reform Party?
I'm a member of Reform. Yeah, absolutely, and I've applied to be a candidate for this.
Oh, have you?
Fingers crossed.
Have you?
Really.
Well, I have to say, obviously, when the election comes, we can't support anybody.
Of course.
But any of our viewers and listeners that are applying to be candidates, we would love to hear from them. I'd love to support them. Now, if you're Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, SNP, Plaid Cymru, some of the other smaller parties, maybe not, but we'd love to talk to you about it and not support you in the sense that we can't go and campaign for you. But it'd be nice to give you that background. Phil, I mean, here's one thing I want to ask you before you come on and talk about the subject.
Yes.
One of the reasons we like Tristan here, and in fact, the reason we like a lot of our viewers and listeners, though not absolutely everyone, is because he's somebody who wants to get on with things and not muck about. You know, ultimately, epilepsy, losing your sight, losing your job. I mean, at one point, he was attempting to be a tour guide at SeaWorld, which I think was a little bit ill-advised as someone who's blind, because the fish move, right? But nonetheless, I'd rather watch somebody get off the backside and try than listen to people squirming and apologising.
But actually, I mean, because we have a guy who has Parkinson's, and he said that spurred him on. We had a woman who broke her back and wanted to kill herself for about 6 months, and now she says she's
the man who had his
did.
penis amputated.
Right. Well, no, he never got over that. But I mean, has it spurred you on, and in fact given you benefit? What
if I can just explain to you guys and Phil in Worthing, Phil.
Yes.
What you should do is, if you've been kicked in life, it's all the more reason to do better for yourself and do better than everybody else.
Yes.
Right.
Chase your dreams, go for it.
But it spurs you on.
Yeah,
like Luke, our entrepreneur who got Parkinson's, it spurred him on and set up, he's got this big business, and, you know, it really does.
I remember that bloke.
Some people really win from bad situations.
Absolutely, Ash. Just because I'm blind doesn't mean I shouldn't own a house.
No.
That's my dream.
And I think it's wonderful. But Tristan, I wonder what your opinion, Tristan, would be on this as well.
Go for it.
The main subject I wanted to talk about was the legalisation of drugs across the board. And I've been against this for years and years, and yet, but I tell you what, I've looked into it much more now, and the amount of people that have died through misuse of dangerous poisonous drugs and overdoses, and the crime rate has been proved to come down immediately to zero.
Well, because you're gifting it to the criminals, aren't you? Organised crime. You're gifting billions of pounds.
They've done this in Portugal, boys. They've done it. Read up on Google.
Phil.
It's been done in Portugal.
Yeah, Phil, I'm glad you mentioned this. We only have to look at the events in Liverpool the other day to see what drugs do.
Well, we can't actually talk about that.
We're not.
Okay,
let me put it another way.
Generally,
in London, they're talking about legalising them. Yeah, Phil.
Yeah. Well, the mayor wants it.
Mayor wants it. Yeah.
Now,
cannabis law.
The downside,
decriminalising it.
And everybody who's listening on TV, the downside is the liver cancers and hepatitis cases went through the roof because more and more people took up the opportunity for free drugs.
No, but I mean, like you say, it would, if it was legalised, not decriminalised. I mean, you look at the fentanyl problem in America, which a tiny speck can kill you. If it's, I mean, and you've got this synthetic cannabis now, and you've got very strong strains, and it would all be regulated, like alcohol is now.
Absolutely. And it gives people a chance to liaise with the health services as well. Obviously, that'd be part of it.
Well, it would be a medical problem. The criminal bit hasn't worked. It never would work.
Yeah.
No, the war on drugs in the United States has failed. All it's done is, I'm sorry to sound, you know, well, I'll just say it. There's been an awful lot of mostly black people locked up, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Phil,
that was
was you aware that Cannabis Law Reform, who are a campaign group, are actually against the mayor's plans here in London?
Oh, no, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, because apparently it will encourage crime because it will just encourage a black market of people, and that can fund other things like terrorism.
Well, that's if it's decriminalised and not legalised. Yeah. So you've got to legalise it properly and regulate it.
It's only by talking about these things, though, you get somewhere, instead of just completely saying, I always agree that we should have a war on drugs, and it hasn't worked, so we've got to try something different.
Yeah, well, we had Professor Nutt, and he came up with the big report, and he said this should be legal, and then the politicians said, no, we'll find that, no, we don't want to do that.
Okay, let me, we're going to have to go to a break now, but I've got another brilliant journalist that's awful. Carol Codswallop. Do you remember that one who was... Codwaller was her name, Carol Codwaller.
Yeah.
Codswallop. She was the one who made up all that stuff about the Russians funding Brexit. She once publicly accused me of knowing my flatmate. Right.
That's a terrible insinuation.
That was a scoop and a half.
Of course you didn't know that.
That was a scoop. No, Andre Walker is connected with this person. He's my bloody flatmate. You complete and total nightmare. All right, thank you so much, Phil. After the break, we're going to be talking to Philippa in Poole in Dorset. Back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, we forgot a few people, didn't we? Go on with your one.
What do you mean?
For journalists,
what are you talking about, Willis?
Terrible.
Well, I forgot Adil Ray, of course. I think he's gone from Good Morning Britain. Of course, he was a crap comedy right before that, Citizen Khan.
Oh, it was
which was sort of like as bad as Mrs. Brown's Boys. It was at a real low point.
It was never accused of being as bad because the ethnic element.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, we forgot to mention Tristan, an obvious person who is not a proper journalist, but he did a journalistic interview in which he interviewed his wife on TV in her capacity as Home Secretary, Ed Balls.
Oh, yeah.
Ed Ball.
Oh, Alistair Campbell.
Yeah, but he's not. But I know what you mean.
He
actually was a journalist originally,
That's
wasn't
Piers Morgan left Talk TV.
He's downstairs. That's another nomination.
There are a few people that I thought about. Yes. Who are? I don't know. The problem is the people. The problem is with oh God, that Nicola Thorpe woman, she couldn't stand me, couldn't she? She hated me. I'll tell you what.
All that lot hated you, didn't they?
They all did.
They all hated him.
I guarantee you, everyone who works at talkTV just hated me.
Well, the one on that show, yeah, they liked me, yeah. Well, one of them didn't.
Well, okay, but the question is on terrible journalists, whether it's people who are wrong-uns like Hugh Edwards. I think they're pretty old.
I thought you were going to call they like you.
People who are bad journalists like Ed Balls, or people who we just don't like. I mean, I'll give you an example, and I've given this before. When I was on the Jeremy Vine show with Yasmin Alibi Brown, we were talking about those planes which were sent off full of Jamaican criminals, and basically, I knew that BA and Virgin had refused to fly these people. They'd looked at their records and gone, I'm sorry, we're not having these people on the plane, even chained up. So they had to hire their own plane, the Home Office did. And then, Yasmin Alibi Brown went to me, but these people are children. I went, no, they're not, they're adults. She went, but they used to be children. And I thought, well, if a current or former child is not, I mean, how can you? Polly Toynbee, I love when somebody asks Polly Toynbee if she worries about climate change when she flies to a house in Tuscany.
Yeah. Can I just ask, Andre, has anyone said Susanna Reid yet?
Susanna Reid? Why do you not like Susanna Reid?
She sulks.
She's not that fit, but I know what you mean. When she said the other day, there's no problem with multiculturalism down my road in wherever, Notting Hill or wherever it was. You know, she obviously lives in her bubble if she doesn't know about what's going on out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, keep your bad journalists coming in. Philippa is in Poole in Dorset. Philippa, you're on talk.
Hi, Andre. Hi, Ash. Hi.
By the way, people are messaging in saying you're Roy Orbison. Go on, sorry, Philippa.
I think it's lovely to see Tristan on the TV because I've heard him call in several times and recognised his voice.
Thanks, Philippa.
I wanted to also say that I've actually asked Nigel Farage if I could be a consultant for reform for disability because I've got cerebral palsy, but I'm still waiting for a reply from him.
Hold tight, because they've only got 5 volunteers working in their head office at the moment.
And he gets about 3,000 emails per day.
They're also called MPs, those for my volunteers.
Yeah, I think actually, I'll tell you something. Well, would you consider being a candidate? I mean, it's not within my gift. It doesn't make. I don't want to make it sound like it is.
You can have a word though.
You could have a word.
I actually have been a candidate before for another party.
Which one?
BNP.
And I also went for an interview as an MP, but I was the only woman at the time who applied, so didn't get a look in.
Well, that normally would mean you'd get the look in, you'd get the job.
Which party was it, Philippa?
I'm going to swear now.
The Tories. Oh, Labour.
Really? So just a matter of interest, Philippa. So look.
They don't like women, MPs.
We love Labour people. Now, I'll tell you why we love Labour people. Because
Labour. We had this conversation last week.
Yeah, but you wanted to be an MP.
Historically.
Because I am now with Reform.
No. But what I'm saying is we love Labour people. You know, we wouldn't have voted to leave the European Union if it hadn't been for Labour voters in the north of England coming out in droves. You know, the proud, patriotic people that fought for this country, that built this country, that have been so spectacularly let down by the Labour Party. Tony Blair hated them, and Keir Starmer hates them. We like you, and okay, we admit that probably you're not going to vote Labour again, but those old Labour trade union people, you know, okay, that you can have arguments with them, but I think they were fundamentally patriotic.
Was it under Corbyn that you...
I've supported Labour since I was about 10 years old.
So it was under Tony Blair era, in the Tony Blair era.
Well, I'm 55, so I've got a long political memory.
Right.
You know, I
Neil
remember the miners' strike from the poll tax.
Tony Blair. Do you remember that? Tony Blair. Tony Blair is trying to destroy the world. Tony Blair.
New Labour,
my grandfather used to look the spitting image of Michael Foot. So I can even remember Michael Foot.
Really? Well, there's a councillor in Romford, I don't know if he's still alive or whatever, called Councillor Ted Eden. And he sort of talk like that, go, hello, son, it's Councillor Ted Eden. And he told me all these stories about when he'd been drinking with John Wayne and all this sort of stuff. It's going on and on and on. And I'm going, why? In the end, he goes, you don't believe all these stories, do you? I went, it's quite hard to believe that you went drinking with John Wayne. He goes, yeah, but what people don't realise is I look like Jimmy Carter. Right, and he did. He looked like Jimmy Carter, and he used to go to all these top hotels in America, and he'd just be at the bar, and people would go, "Mr. President," he'd go, "I'm not your president. I'm Cancer Ted Eden from Romford," and then
do you want a drink, John? Like hell, I will.
Andre, you've gone off on a real tangent here. I was actually phoning up to tell you who I thought was the worst journalist,
go for it.
and that's Martin Bashir.
Yeah, Martin Bashir. Do you believe?
Because I believe that man has got blood on his hands with the death of Diana.
And the Michael Jackson thing as well, wasn't it?
So just to explain why Martin Bashir is accused of being responsible for the death of Princess Diana, because some people are going to find that really weird. So obviously what he did was, in order to get the interview with Princess Diana, he faked some bank statements which showed a foreign entity, I think in the British Virgin Islands, was paying a member of staff to her brother, Earl Spencer. The member of staff was completely innocent and got fired as a result of the
blacklisted. It ruined his career. He was a graphic artist.
Yeah. No, sorry. The member of staff was sacked.
I'm talking about the guy who did the
guy did the fake.
Yeah.
So here's what happened next. Because it came from abroad, Princess Diana had become convinced the security services were spying on her. Right, that is why she had no police protection. Now, whatever way you look at it, and we can all say, oh, the royals did it and all this sort of thing, there is no doubt that she had a drunk driver. There's no doubt that these bulbs were going off in Paris. Now, even if there was some conspiracy by MI5 or MI6, which I don't believe, even there was those police bodyguards would have protected her, but she didn't have them because of Bashir.
She did have one who actually came on the show with me and James Wales years ago, who actually survived the crash.
Trevor Reese.
He had his seatbelt on, and he said he didn't remember anything about it, but I'm not sure about that. But
I'll tell you what, I won my PAs from a company I worked for years ago. One of her cousins was one of the paps that took the photos, and he was very, very clear what had happened. Bulbs were flashing in Henri Paul's face. He lost control of the vehicle, and we drove off because we believed that we would be prosecuted.
Yeah, but the MI5 had done an assassination attempt before on someone where they go exactly like this. They go in a tunnel and they've got this anti-personnel flash, which is much brighter. It basically blinds you and they said that people reported that one of the bikers, it was an unusual, unbelievable flash, nothing like a photographer. So it could, and that was one of the ways they would assassinate people. So who knows what happens.
Philippa, I want to ask you this before we move on. And I think you can class this person as a journalist because he's a presenter on BBC Manchester, Terry Christian. He's dreadful, isn't he? He is dreadful. All right, come on, mate.
He came on the show once and I said, why you were such a happy bloke on the word. Why have you become such a bitter man? And he went, yeah, prat, all like that. And I said, another time he came on, I said, you're from Salford, aren't you? He goes, no, I'm not. I'm from Trafford, you prat. Every time he come on, he's got like his bitter.
Do you remember the segment on the word, the hopefuls?
Yeah, I do.
That made me wish I'd gone blind then.
Yeah, it was horrendous.
How about this one? How about this one?
I'll do anything to be on TV.
No, I think this is a journalist because I will tell you, somebody has suggested Louis Theroux for the following nomination. Right, when I watched the Louis Theroux thing with Jimmy Savile, I believed what I was watching, and I'd heard nothing about Jimmy Savile. I believed what I was watching was Louis Theroux implying to me that he thought that Jimmy Savile was a paedophile. That's what I thought he was doing. Now, as it turns out, Louis Theroux says, I was not doing that. I did not know that he was a sex offender.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've got a mate who I used to work on Talk Sport with, Dan Davis, who wrote the book, and the Alan Partridge, Steve Coogan thing on the BBC was about my mate Dan Davies, who did the same thing as Louis Theroux. He lived with Savile for a few days. He went on the QE2 with him, and when I saw him after, he was in no doubt. The guy's a big, and he would telling me secret stuff. He was in no doubt. So I can't think, like you say, Louis Theroux was intimating it, and he stayed mates with him after.
What amazed me about this is that I watched the programme not knowing anything about Savile and thought, Louis Theroux thinks he's a paedophile. And I thought, wow, that's weird. And then Louis Theroux later said, I didn't know that, and I wasn't implying it.
But that's because he stayed mates with him after, so he couldn't go, I still thought he was a good bloke, so I hung out with him. He had to say, we know.
All right, Philippa in Poole, thank you so much.
We're not stupid,
We're going to be back with Grace in London straight after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, we've just had a brilliant idea. Tomorrow night, James Whale, if James Whale's off, if James is... OK, James' idea in the gallery. If James Whale is off, and as you know, we're now going to be much more honest, James is ill. So what happens now...
He might be on holiday.
Every Friday morning, I get told whether I'm going to do it tomorrow on the night. But
he's hoping to come on.
If I'm in, we're going to discuss what is the worst town in Britain.
Southend has to win something.
Yeah. But what is it that they always say? There's a similarity between Southend and Las Vegas. In both towns, you can pay for sex with chips. Okay, so worst politicians. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know who these people are. But okay, Grace in London. Grace, you're on Talk.
Hi. I feel like I want to say love your enemies. A lot of anger and resentment I'm hearing.
Oh really?
Yeah, but you're free to have opinions. Obviously, I'm not criticizing.
No. I just think if we don't like if we don't agree with somebody, we can slag them off, can't we?
Well, you can. I personally wouldn't choose to, and I'm just expressing my opinion about you expressing opinions. But I also wanted to add that it's really great to hear Tristan talk about how one can have, I don't know, stoicism and exuberance.
Oh, thank you, Grace.
In the midst of what some people would presume to be a difficult situation. And it reminded me, last week you talked about how James Whale has done brilliant things whilst he's been unwell in campaigning for others. And I so often come across people who say, how could there possibly be a God when there are these bad things that happen in the world? Yeah. But sometimes people who are actually going through bad things do really inspirational things, rather than just sitting around and complaining.
Yeah, just to remind everyone, there's an irony here, and it's a cruel irony that because James Whale obviously got this kidney cancer 20 years ago, wherever it was, he's raised an absolute fortune for charity, and of course got the MBE partly because of that. And so actually the country is better because he got cancer. Now I appreciate that's a cruel irony, but it is nonetheless true, and quite often that is true, because somebody faces adversity will respond to it with such gusto that other people
they won't
benefit.
be beaten by it, and in fact they'll triumph from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always really inspiring to see people who are able to have a positive attitude and do.
Yeah, but he did walk into the camera when he came in earlier, so there is still,
in contrast to Kennedy Asman, I'm not personally kind of spiritually inclined. That is to say, I don't really feel able to get my head around spiritual things. I'm not inclined to believe in the supernatural, but I came to conclude while I was studying science that there has to be a designer. There's too much that's interdependent and finely tuned for there not to be a designer, and therefore there is a God, i.e. a designer, and so I came to believe in Christianity that way. And I came.
Well, that could be aliens, couldn't it, that designed us? We could just be a massive sim.
I used to play The Sims when I was a child, and it's not quite like that, but.
Well, it's a very advanced one, obviously. It's not like Sim City.
But on the serious note about that, so what if this is just all a computer simulation and we are just lines of code? Now, there would be an advantage of this. It would mean that God was definitely true. There would have to be a God, right? Secondly, my reading of the Bible is that there is nothing in the Bible incompatible with that. But there is another advantage, which means that if this is a simulation, then there is absolutely no reason why there can't be an afterlife, and no reason why I can't spend eternity with my mother and the rest of and my other departed relatives.
Elon Musk, one of the cleverest men in the world, said he's 90% sure we are in a simulation.
I'm not quite sure what to make of Elon Musk, and I think the idea that we're in a computer simulation is just kind of transferring the idea of something that human beings have invented onto a metaphysical
Do you think that there comes a point at which you so interpret something that it becomes meaningless garbage?
Well, you said there was a designer. That's exactly what you're saying, Grace.
I'm saying there's a designer. I'm saying we don't need to imagine. You kind of defying Occam's razor. You don't need to think that we're in a simulation. We can see that there's a designer. We don't need to imagine that there's...
Grace, do you have any religious belief at all, or is it you just believe we were created?
No, she's a Christian.
She is a Christian.
Like Ken, but basically Ken in a skirt.
I don't wear skirts, actually. I wear shorts.
Oh, yeah, it's Ken wears the skirts.
And floral T-shirts.
Only kilts, I suppose.
I also... later studied the accounts of Jesus' resurrection, and though I cannot get my head around it at all, came to conclude that is true. And then because I believed that it was true, I have been praying and finding that has brought me greater joy than anything else.
Yeah.
But studying the Bible and trying to understand all of it better. But one thing I kind of called up about was to say, whilst I don't disagree with Ken about the devil existing, I do think that we shouldn't get necessarily quite as overly stressed about Satan as Ken was. Not that Satan's not evil and a problem, but actually what the Bible says really is that the problem is human sin. It's not like there's this magical being who's causing all the problems.
But don't you think Ken, much he is a lovely bloke, and believe me, he really is, because we've met him on multiple occasions, a lot of people who do what Ken does are not interested in converting people to Christianity, even though they think they are. They're much more interested in proving that they're a better Christian than anybody else.
Well, I can't speak for Ken. I don't know enough about him personally, but there are certainly some people like that, and I don't know about Ken in particular. I think what concerns me slightly is if you say to people, well, you should believe this because the Bible says so, if someone doesn't already believe in the Bible, why would they believe what you're saying?
Well, the thing is, Grace, some people find, well, in particular Christians, find that God is so loving and forgiving that there may be very, very few people in hell, if any. What's your views on that?
I think that ultimately people can decide whether they want to spend eternity with God through what Jesus has done for us. Jesus has taken the sin that upon himself, so he's received the punishment that we deserve. And we can choose to repent of our sin and turn to him and have eternal life through him, or we can choose not to. And I think that if we choose not to, I think there is a hell, but I don't think, in contrast to Ken, that it means you go on suffering forever and ever and ever, because fire doesn't burn things forever and ever. Fire burns things up and then they're gone.
Well, thank you there, Grace, but oh no, we've got a little message for Tristan. Who is it again? Laura, what's you got to say? Press play on the Panasonic.
Hi guys, this is Laura from Surrey. Follower of Tris on X. He's an absolutely great guy, so intelligent, and it's wonderful to see him on Talk. So hopefully we'll see him again at some point. It's really great to see him. He's an inspiration.
You sure you got the right one there? I mean,
okay, let's go to Cindy.
Let's start to say howdy doody, have a nice day, and you're welcome.
Cindy. Howdy doody. Maple syrup.
Hi, Tristan. Hi, Ash. Hi, Andre.
Cindy, I'm a big fan of yours.
Sunny side up.
Tristan, is that you?
It is. Lovely to talk to you.
Oh, my God. Lovely to talk to you.
Did you not know he was on? Have you not been listening then? You've not been listening, have you, Cindy? You just ring in like Ken.
All the time.
Well, you didn't know he was on anyway. Carry on, Cindy.
No, but Hey, Ash.
Caught you out.
Butt out.
Go on, you have a chat.
I know you've been on, and it's lovely to see you.
How you doing, Cindy? You all right? How you doing? You okay, Cindy?
I am. I wanted to talk about a little bit about Ken. I love Ken and everything. I believe in his message, but I think as a Christian myself, I'd like to hear a little bit more inspirational talk. Because he's a little bit too much about the devil and you're all going to hell if you don't do this. It's too reprimanding, like.
Do you want to hear a bit more of a loving message from Ken, Cindy?
I want to hear a little bit more. I know he means well.
Yeah.
So Ken, I love you. Let's just be a little bit more.
It's almost like that. It was almost like that Anjam Chowdhury who said, Islam doesn't mean peace, it means submission. And you know, and it was all this oppressive, miserable sort of, and you think, give us a break.
Right. And I feel like you'd have there's a lot of depressed people in the world.
we all know about the going to hell and all the bad stuff out there and what's going to happen and doom and gloom. Let's hear what happens if you're kind to each other, if you can, maybe if you have a few dollars and you can pay for the person ahead of or behind you in the line.
That's
or,
lovely.
But they're probably just going to shoplift it anyway.
Pay it forward, things like that. And I want to talk about Anna McGovern. I love her. She's a superstar too, and I love that you have her on. And I really would like her to join forces with Kelly J. Keane. I think they could be magical together.
Yeah, she does a lot for women's.
They're both lovely women. They both could.
Well, she's with Jess at the moment when the women's.
Well, we're proud. I'll tell you what we're incredibly proud of. We're incredibly proud that we're giving an opportunity for women who stand up, and men who stand up for women, who say that we're not going to have women pushed out of their spaces. We're not going to have women verbally and sexually assaulted, even though it's happened in the past. We want to stop it. And but more importantly, we want a future for young girls in this country that doesn't involve playing second fiddle to a man in a frock.
That's right, and I want to see